All right, welcome everybody to Progressive Discussions. I'm your host, James P. Madonna. I'm with my co-host, Damian the Dissenter Owens. How are you this evening, sir?
Well, I'm here just very physically and emotionally exhausted.
I understand. Just, just pace yourself and relax. It is the end of summer. The heat wave is over. I could feel and smell Labor Day weekend around the corner. My favorite season, autumn, is growing close, and the weather's starting to cool down. For at least for the Northeast, maybe even Eastern Tennessee also. But but I know California, Southern California is having a horrible heat wave and forest fires. Thank you, fossil fuel industry, for the climate change and all that. Destroying the Amazon rainforest for profit, for greed. Now, we already know the theme of the show because we have a very accurate personal testimonial. But the country has never really been at its lowest, except for maybe World War II. But we're in bad shape. It's just a mess, and it's a mess because Americans have been deceived and hoodwinked into thinking that if you don't belong to the two major political parties, you're not qualified enough to run a state or the country, and that's total bullshit because the system is shot. It has been shot for a long time. We have been lied to for decades. The rich have been on a tax vacation since Reagan changed it, and capitalism has failed the lower 98%. I'd say probably since 1776. All men are created equal. It really means all very wealthy Caucasian landowners that kept slaves are created equal. Now, people supported Joe Biden in the primaries, supposedly, unless it was rigged by the DNC, that Bernie Sanders would get demolished. But people, Americans hear the word democratic socialism, or they hear the word socialism, and they get spooked. They get spooked, and they have to go for the centrist, touchy-feely, creepy Uncle Joe. Now, Uncle Joe Biden, of course, he picked a woman that went for his jugular vein during the Democratic primary debates. And she did go for his jugular vein, and so did Elizabeth Warren, crying and whining, playing the misogynist, feminist card. Now, but these are power-hungry women that want to bury their opponents. That's how, unfortunately, how politics is like professional wrestling. They hug and kiss you and say, "Brother, brother, I miss you. I love you, brother." And then as soon as you walk out the door, they talk about you behind your back. And politics is no different. Now, the thing is, Bernie Sanders, yes, did get screwed for the second time. Now, we have the lesser of the two. You know what? It's between the frying pan and the furnace, or the campfire and the in other words, the lesser of the two evils is really not that much lesser. There we got, just picture a bird. Picture foghorn leghorn with one white wing and one dyed blue wing or red wing. They're both different color wings, but they belong to the same bird. And that is what we have with establishment, American capitalist, oligarch-controlled fascist politics. We have a bird with two different color wings. So no matter where you go, Democrat or Democrat, or sometimes Dummycrat or Republican, no matter which way you go, you're screwed, because you're still voting for the oligarch. You're still voting for the establishment. And Americans just won't accept socialism like they have in Scandinavia and Canada, and do the right thing and follow the original Karl Marx writings. That's Facebook. If you hear that doo doo doo, it's otherwise I got to log back into. Okay. Now, this man right here, the master of the third eye himself, Damien the Dissenter Owens, he has an interesting story, a personal story, that is involved with the downside of wearing masks during the pandemic for long periods of time. Sometimes not that long. We're talking about wearing a mask during a work shift. And if a person has an issue, respiratory issue, and they wear that mask for an extended period of time, they're going to probably end up in the ER with some sort of attack, which is what Damien barely missed. It could have been a trip to the ER for him if he didn't nip it in the bud and pound that nail into the pine box and prevent that from happening. So at your own pace, in a relaxed manner, you can tell the folks how you feel about the mask situation with the pandemic.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I'm just going to cut right to the chase. I'm not going to bullshit you. I'm just going to tell it to you like it is. By wearing a mask, you are not only jeopardizing your health, you are endangering your health. The masks, they want to tout these as the saviors in the stopping of spread of this COVID-19, but I'm going to tell you right now, however good and enticing that might sound to you buying into this, you'll buy into it now, but the devil will be in the details, and you'll end up paying the ultimate price later. Now, here's my story. So I'm an essential worker, and I am on the front lines. I've been working throughout this whole entire thing since day one. I was there at work when they broke the story about COVID, when they started having cases here in the United States. So I've missed a couple of days of work because of a weird emergency surgery that I had to have, which did not bear anything because of COVID. It was something really odd, and unique, and interesting. I'm still trying to figure out why it happened, but it did. So for 3 months, the first 3 months of me being an essential worker on the front lines, nobody wore masks, nobody distanced, and no one at my workplace got sick. In fact, we knew of no one early on who got this COVID-19. But that all changed in early May. May 1st, our company policy now mandated that all workers have to wear a mask. It was no longer up to our discretion as to whether we wanted to or not. And they kept pounding it into our heads that masks work, masks save lives, do your part. But however great that sounded at first, that quickly turned into a disaster. As you all may have known, and if you don't, here you go. I have exercise-induced asthma. Now, exercise-induced asthma is a different type of asthma. It's not something that you just develop. It's something that you were born with. It's a hereditary form of asthma. I got it from my mom. My mom has it. My half-sister, who has the same mom as me, just a different dad, she has it, and I have it. It's something that you have to learn to live with your entire life. But just because it is a form of asthma, in my case, until the mask mandate kicked in and I was forced to start wearing them, I had it completely under control. I knew what triggered it. I never had to carry an inhaler. And if there was a point to where I felt like it was about ready to come on, I'd just stop, either cool off, drink some water, or that would be in a hot and humid environment. Now, if it was in a really cold, very dry environment where the humidity was very low, I would just come in, warm up, drink some water, and then I'd go back to doing what I was doing. Never had to have an inhaler. Now, in a matter of 3 months, it has taken my asthma to the point to where it now has become a detriment to my life. I now have to carry around an inhaler. I never know when an asthma flare could happen. It can happen anytime, anywhere. And in all honesty, it sucks because all of this could have been avoided had they not mandated it and still left it up to the individual. Now, let me talk to you all now personally as to if it took a healthy guy like me, and the only other condition I have is acid reflux. I got that from both of my parents. That's a hereditary thing, but my acid reflux was not a detriment to my life. Neither was my asthma until now. There are risks and there are downsides to wearing masks, period. Whether you put them on for just a few minutes or you wear them for a long period of time. They're not as effective in terms of protecting you as what you might think. At most, the mask in a typical environment is only going to be 25 to 30% effective. That's it. And plus, if you don't believe me, there's a video online you can watch where a firefighter took a spray can to mimic droplets and aerosols, and he took various masks from the cloth ones that are like the ear loop, the bandanas, the scarves, the neck gaiters, the cloth ones, you name it. They went right through. No problem. Now, if it can go through for you, that can go through someone else's mask. So literally, you're wearing giant germ, bacteria, and virus magnets by having them on your face. Not only are you catching other people's stuff, you're trapping your own germs and bacteria and viruses, known as your own viral load. What will eventually happen is they keep this up indefinitely. You will see here, I would say 3 to 6 months. You will see people start to develop asthma. Healthy, normal people who have no pre-existing conditions start to develop asthma, and they'll have like this sickness to them. Not like they're physically sick or that they're contagious, but they will feel like they're sick. Like they'll have difficulty breathing. Their nose will be congested, and they'll feel like there's mucus and congestion going here in the throat and into the chest. And that's by breathing your own viral load that these masks are trapping. Now, if it took a guy like me to that, what is this going to do, people? I mean, at the end of the day, if you want to wear one, no one can stop you. But at this point, my message to you all is educate yourself more about how to protect yourself. Start looking after your own health and your well being, because obviously, our leaders and our medical experts are not going to do it. They're too incompetent to fucking do it. Hell, look at what they do on the fucking news every day, where they always constantly flip flop. They're always telling this and then that, and it's just always keeping people in a constant state of confusion. This one size fit all authoritarian anti-human agenda that these medical tyrants, these medical frauds keep pushing onto our leaders, and then they follow suit. This is going to make people sick, and this is going to make people get hurt. If we had just educated people in the very beginning about the importance of self-health, like nutrition, especially vitamins and minerals, and then making sure you're getting plenty of sleep, and doing other things to protect yourself. So if you do that, I guarantee you we would have seen a much different result. But now, where people are so physically and mentally not well at this particular point, you will see that when it comes right down to it, we could have had a low infection pool and a low susceptibility, but now where people are not taking care of themselves, where people who were once either drug abuse or alcoholics, they have relapsed. A lot of people have lost their jobs, and a lot of people are now going hungry. Prescriptions are now going unfilled. Now we're looking at trillions of dollars in debt unnecessarily. This has now affected not only millions of lives here in America, but billions of lives throughout the entire world. There really hasn't been one part of this planet that this has not touched. So here is my message to these medical tyrants and these medical frauds and our politicians and leaders. Stop this bullshit now. You're going to make people sick. You're going to make people hurt. And when it does, you will not have qualified immunity. You will be held accountable for your actions. If someone wants to press criminal charges against you for criminally negligent behavior, or also go after you civilly and take you for everything you got, they could do it. The only way that won't happen is if you stop all this, and stop it now. You have taken a problem that could have been very easily managed and very easily handled, and created problems that are far worse and far overreaching than the original problem. So that is my message to you all, people. Educate yourselves. Take the mask off. Save yourself now while you got the chance. To hell with these self-righteous, sanctimonious pricks.
I don't understand why the United States government didn't ask for advice from, like, let's say, Northern European countries, some of the Asian countries like Taiwan and Singapore, who did a fantastic job. I mean, they never did. Are they just too arrogant to ask advice from other countries because they think America is like, the representative of the planet Earth? I mean, ask the countries that have succeeded. Where they don't have this madness that we have here in Florida, Texas, and California. but they don't do it. They don't do it. They didn't listen. They didn't bother to. Well, I think they knew about the drug treatments. They knew about it. They knew about all of them. They just want to push for that racketeering vaccine. God knows what else is in the vaccine. Wink, wink, nod, nod. You can't. They're not going to make much profit off of an old 65-year-old malaria drug, zinc supplement. So, but they can care less about fixing this problem, this pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
All they think about is profiteering through their racketeering. And the two major parties are too far gone to reform and to save. They're in bed with the oligarchs. There are evil forces behind what's going on with this pandemic, where the so-called medical experts keep on flip-flopping with their information, confusing people. Every week they change your mind. Every week. It's all different information. And I think what it comes down to is teaching people how to live a healthier life, like you said. What to eat, what not to eat, what supplements to take, how much of a dosage you should take to boost your immune system. And of course, eventually herd immunity is the only way to get it under control. Now, there are vaccines for all the famous deadly diseases of the past that have worked. But if you have drug treatments that work, then why lie to people and say they're bogus, they're dangerous? Meanwhile, they're using it in West African countries because it's tropical and there are lots of mosquitoes and there's lots of malaria, and they're using it for COVID-19, and their numbers in West Africa are the lowest in the entire world. Okay, I don't know if it was Ghana, all those little West African countries, they're using the protocol, the hydroxychloroquine with the zinc, and if they need a Z-Pack, if they need it, if they get pneumonia, then they get it. But the thing is, they have the lowest numbers, even lower than the Asian countries, because first of all, the quinine tree is from Africa. Second of all, these people, they think more logically and not exploitive. Like in this country, they think, how can I exploit all these millions of suckers? They sit around a big wooden table in Wall Street and they just think about ways to scheme and scam and deceive the American suckers, who are very gullible, extremely gullible, because all they do, I think the average person depends on mainstream media. They don't do what we do and watch the underground media on YouTube, on social media videos. They don't bother. And they call and they're bashing Anonymous, QAnon. They're bashing them, saying that, all these conspiracy theory videos are all produced by crazy people. They don't know what they're talking about. Blah 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 blah. Like the doctor and the woman in Australia that was ready, was blowing the whistle. They, as far as they're concerned, they don't even want people recommending supplements. I've listened to some of these popular doctors that make medical videos every day about the pandemic, and they're telling people, don't believe what you hear about this supplement and that supplement, and nothing will cure COVID-19. Nothing.
Bullshit.
And all these famous, I'm not saying they're as famous as the little flip-flop Fauci. I'm not saying they're like him, but they're popular. They do videos every day, and you could see they're big pharma suck-ups, panderers. Okay, Nina, you already asked if you have a steroid inhaler. Which inhaler do you use?
It's just a regular Buterol inhaler. I mean, it's working fine, but in case anyone is wondering, I now actually have a medical exception to the mask. My doctor has actually given me the exception to where I'm not required to wear one. Well, I only wore one at work. When I'm out in public, and like if I'm going to the grocery store, or if I'm just out, I don't wear one because I knew over time this would happen. And now look, here I am. Now, for those of you who are also questioning, why am I calling these people medical frauds and medical tyrants? Look at what they're saying and look at what they're doing and look at how authoritarian and draconian these people are being to everyone and how they're taking the humanity out of everything. They're telling you, stay 6 feet apart, wear the mask, don't do this, don't do that. If you do, you'll infect or kill someone. It's like they're guilt tripping you. It's like they don't want you to be different. They don't want you to go against their grain, basically. That's what they don't want. And like you said, they are saying, don't take vitamin C, don't take zinc, it doesn't work. Oh, really? How come there's plenty of evidence and plenty of data out there that making sure you have plenty of vitamins and minerals in your body is key not only to preventing yourself from getting sick, but also to where if for any reason that, it happens to spread to anyone, that, you can lower the infection pool and other people can protect themselves. So even if someone decides they don't want to be a team player and not do their part and they end up getting themselves sick, well, if other people are protected with the vitamins and the minerals, especially zinc, because zinc actually is a preventive measure. My doctor clearly told me, he said, you're going to be at higher risk of catching this, but as long as you distance, he didn't specifically say 6 feet. He just said distance. Don't be in people's face. He said, don't be in people's face. He said, if you want to stay 6 feet, fine, but you don't have to specifically stay 6 feet. Me, I'm okay with 2 or 3 feet. 2 or 3 feet is like my bubble. But he said, definitely take zinc. Increase your zinc intake because zinc actually is a preventive measure that people can take to not get this.
It's a prophylactic. It's a preventative measure. Even vitamin D3. I take A with D because they're both fat soluble vitamins, and you have to have some fat in your diet in order for these fat solubles to work effectively. Vitamin E is fat soluble. Vitamin K2, but magnesium, very important. Like zinc, it has hundreds of different functions in the human body. And their zinc is anti-thrombotic, which means prevents clots. It's anti-inflammatory, number one, because many diseases are drawn to inflammation in the body, and it prevents the respiratory ill effects of COVID-19 and influenza. I mean, but you have to, being that the virus has this sneaky ability, not just COVID-19, but viruses have a sneaky ability to block the vitamin D receptors of your cells. So this is why high amounts of vitamin D3 are recommended, not the pitiful, pathetic 400 units, 1,000 units. No, it's not just for absorbing calcium. It has hundreds, of at least several hundred different functions in the body. But by taking a high dose, like 10,000 units, 20,000 units, if you have an underlying condition, you're flooding the body with the vitamin D3. So you're overriding the blocking that these viruses are doing, which is amazing because they don't really have any intelligence at all. They're like neither alive or dead. They just their only function is to replicate and kill your cell. They don't have any ability to make decisions when they're in your body, in your bloodstream. They just look for a cell to attach to and then penetrate it. But taking high amounts of the essential nutrients will keep your immune system at a peak level. So all your troops, like I was telling you privately, they're all in, like, they all have a function. Macrophages, leukocytes, killer T cells, probiotics, mucus, antibodies. It's like ranks in the military, and they're all called upon at different times. But if you don't have optimal levels of these nutrients, you're going to be immune system compromised. And that's just what the virus wants, because it's like,
yeah. Speaking of immunocompromise, that's another side effect of wearing masks, is it will eventually make us all immunocompromised, because we're not giving our immune system practice against other things that are out there. So I would say right now, if we repealed the mask mandate everywhere and left it up to individual choice and people just stopped wearing them, yeah, you would probably see an increase of this and that, but it would level out. But the longer we have this in place and the more we keep doing this, the worse off we're going to get. If you think it's bad now, wait until another, like I said, I give it 3 to 6 months. We're going to be in a much, much worse position than what we're already in. Now, let's see. I lost my train of thought. Oh, now, another reason why I'm calling these people medical tyrants and medical frauds, look at how they have literally led people and made them comply so much. Okay, so what was in the very beginning? Quarantine 14 days, stay home so the hospitals don't get overrun. Okay, that 14 days came and went. Then it turned into stay home completely. Staying home saves lives. That lasted 2 months. Then May. Okay, well, we'll release the lockdown a little bit if you wear the mask for a month. All right, well, that came and gone to early June. Then that has now turned into 3 months. Well, now it's now turning into indefinite. We don't know when this will end. We don't know how long we're going to have to keep the lockdown in place. We don't know how long we're going to have to mask up. And it's just like, come the fuck on, people. Give me a break. Enough is enough. Do you not see what you are doing to people? How you're literally torturing people. Let's just call this for what it is. This is pure physical and psychological torture. This is Munchausen syndrome. This is factitious disorder, treating people as if they are sick, even though they're healthy and they don't have it and they're not going to spread it. That is not how you get people to comply.
Yeah, well,
that's why
my doctor says if you're asymptomatic, a doctor can't really diagnose and prescribe anything. Like, if you're asymptomatic, the affliction it can't be proved that you have it. It's not present in you. If you're asymptomatic, but
right.
And you know how faulty the tests are. That's another.
Oh, don't even get me started on the tests.
Another issue for a talk show. The tests are bonkers. You know, Alyssa Milano had a bad. It's confusing. Alyssa Milano was on a respirator in California, but she kept testing negative for COVID-19. But she was on a respirator. But anyway, she recovered, and she's all right now, knock on wood for Alyssa Milano, but she kept testing negative for COVID-19. So,
all right, well, why was she on a ventilator then if she didn't have COVID? Did she have a bad respiratory infection?
Had all the symptoms of COVID, or of, like, let's say, an elderly person who gets a bad case of the influenza or a COVID. She had the symptoms of COVID, but she kept testing negative over and over. And she has not tested positive for COVID-19, but she made a recovery. And she's not an old bat. She's still a good looking, but probably early middle age. But she looks decent. She has, she doesn't show any age, but she had a bad case because she was talking to Chris Cuomo of CNN, who had a bad case and gave it to his wife and son, who they had a super mild case, like a college kid. They zipped right through it, and they tested negative, but he had it bad. So they were talking on the phone every day, and she was on the respirator for real because they showed videos and photos, but she never tested positive. Okay, then what the hell did she have if she didn't test positive? And then I told you about my friend in Boca Raton. His wife had bad influenza or COVID-19 symptoms, and she kept testing that. She tested negative and said, and I showed you the the paperwork, the invoice. It says there's no guarantee that you don't have COVID-19 in your body, even though you're testing negative. So what is the point in getting tested?
Well, that's what they're basing the numbers, the cases, everything off the test. All right. So if the test is bonkers, then we already are going to have falsified case numbers. Okay. So they falsified case numbers, they falsified death numbers, and then now apparently the recovery time and the symptoms and when someone develops symptoms is all over the place. I've talked with several people because I went to a funeral a couple of weeks ago, and I talked to someone who had this. He had a very, very bad case. Here's what he told me. He said, my symptoms were sudden and onset, like just boom, right out of the blue. It wasn't 7 to 14 days. I had sudden symptoms, boom, right out of the gate. And I progressed worse. And eventually I went and got tested. I tested positive, but when it came to treatment, they didn't give him hydroxychloroquine. They gave him the Z-Pack and then told him to increase his zinc intake until he got better. So from the time he had his symptoms to when he fully recovered was 39 days. Okay? Now, his wife, she had the same thing, sudden onset symptoms, but her case was more mild. Hers was over in about 9 days. So they kept saying, symptoms are 7 to 14 days, recovery time is 7 to 14 days. Well, this doesn't line up. Their symptoms were sudden in onset. He had a much harder time recovering, but he did recover. And had he not told you he had it, you never would have known. Same thing with his wife. They're both back to normal as if nothing ever happened. Yes. Now, the next point I want to bring up, and this is still very important, we still do not have the isolated sequence or sequences that really show how COVID-19 is different from the other coronaviruses. We are still lacking that piece of evidence.
Yeah, the new SARS. That's actually what it is. It's a new version of SARS, right? But Corona is a big family, but they don't have the genetic material, the RNA sequence, to prove, to isolate this virus as an actual bona fide new species of coronavirus.
Right. So we are still missing that evidence. So if people ask me, I still stand by what I said. We have a bunk test. We have falsified case numbers. We have symptoms all over the place. We have recovery times all over the place. The severity of the cases are all over the place. Not every case turns severe. Not everyone dies from this. So, and then we still have the key piece of evidence missing, the isolated sequence or sequences of this genetic material. So, if we were to take this evidence to a court of law and say, Your Honor, here's the evidence we've got. This is the evidence that we have to prove COVID-19 exists. Well, the judge would look it over, and you'd have that would be for the prosecution. Then the defense could say, well, all right, well, you've got all this, you got all this evidence here, but the key piece is missing: the isolated sequence or sequences of the RNA genetic material. So there is reasonable doubt that it exists. So until they release it and they allow the whole RNA to be decoded to see what really is in there, it's a quantifiable and qualifiable hoax.
Yeah, I mean, they don't have concrete bona fide evidence like you just explained. I mean, now I have I spoke to my friend in the Clearwater, Florida area. She's from Tampa, and we were talking about herd immunity, and we were talking about something that put a light bulb on top of my head. Children that had the chicken pox. Okay. I had the chicken pox, but I had no higher than moderate symptoms of the chicken pox. I mean, I had the red dots all over. I had, the basic symptoms, but I was saying that people who had the chicken pox as a child, when they get older, they will come down with shingles, which is herpes zoster. It's a skin condition called herpes zoster. It's called shingles, and the chicken it comes out, it erupts from your skin because the chickenpox virus hides in your nerve cells. Now, she told me, guess what? My doctor explained to me. She says, when I was a kid, I had the chickenpox also, but I had severe chickenpox symptoms. I had it bad. And she also had, she got very sick and had vaccine poisoning. She was given a vaccine that she got seriously ill from, but she pulled through. So she says, I'm not taking any vaccines. I got really seriously ill from a vaccine. He says, the fact is, if you had severe chickenpox symptoms as a child, you will not get shingles as an adult. You will not get herpes zoster, which is shingles. Why? Because your immune system got a workout, got some practice, because you had bad chickenpox symptoms. She says, when you have mild to moderate, your immune system is not put to the test against the virus that later becomes herpes zoster in adults. Okay? She says, I never had shingles. The doctor says I won't get shingles because my immune system got a heavy duty workout when I had severe chickenpox symptoms. So that sounds very similar to the principles of herd immunity.
Right. Well, that's why at this point, after looking at all the evidence that's come forward, so, all right, well, what really can this be that's going around? Well, if it's got flu-like symptoms, and in the test, now this is where things are also getting very interesting. So, if you have RNA similarity with your own genetic material to this, whatever it is they're testing, you can theoretically test positive. Now, here's what will also make you test positive, and this has now come forward. If you've had the flu or you've had a flu vaccine, you will test positive. If you've had either a bacterial infection or you've had strep, you can test positive. Well, I had strep last year. I don't know how I got it, but apparently, according to my mom, I had strep one other time when I was, I want to say, like 3 or 4. But I'm 26, and that was last year. I was still 25, so I've had strep in 26 years. But when I was tested for strep, they said I actually had two different forms of strep at the same time. And I was on antibiotics and I got over it in 3 days.
Right.
Now, what happened with me was I just had a really, really bad sore throat. It just felt like my throat was swollen and there was like needles and knives in my throat.
Oh,
I didn't have a fever. I didn't have a cough. I didn't have a sneeze or I didn't have anything. I just had that. Now, based on the symptoms and based on how many different things will make you test positive, and now we're still missing the RNA sequence that shows that it's been isolated to show it's a new strain. We're still missing that. The best thing I can really say is this is just really a bad flu, whatever this is, because it's got the symptoms. The test, if you've had a flu or something that could even be RNA similar to this particular strain, will make you test positive. Recovery times are all over the place. Onset of symptoms are all over the place. But here's what's interesting. So if you look at just the regular flu, there have been more cases of flu, but less deaths. But with this, there have been not as many cases as the regular flu, but then yet there have been more deaths. So whatever this is, it's got to be just a really bad version of the flu. I mean, it can still be treated with zinc in the Z-Pack, which can treat colds and flus. The hydroxychloroquine isn't needed in all cases. Then it's got to be a flu. That's really the best thing this could be, is a actual flu.
It happens, and a flu that doesn't go away in the warm weather in the summer. Evidently,
Right.
If it's a form of influenza, it's a new obviously a new strain, more powerful than standard typical influenza. But there are pieces of the puzzle not missing but being hidden because there's just too much evidence surrounding that virus research center in Wuhan province, China.
Right. Well,
But they're not. They talked about it for a while, and then the media stopped talking about it. That's what they do.
Well, in that Wuhan lab and various labs throughout the world, they take different viruses and different things, and they mutate them together to see, how they mutate, and to see if the new chimera virus will ultimately either succeed or fail. Well, I tapped my doctor's brain a little bit more because medical professionals, some of them are not coming forward because when they do, they become either investigated by the boards, or they just become suppressed or demonized or poked fun of and ridiculed. So I'm not going to mention my doctor's name for various reasons. I don't want him getting in trouble. So I decided to tap his brain and see what he knows. So here's what he said. He said, yeah, we know it did come from China and that it did come from the Wuhan lab. He said, but this is what's very interesting. He said, yeah, this COVID-19 strain is a new virus. It was created. It's a chimera virus. But it was designed as a test virus to see how we can manipulate a virus to see how it mutates and what it can be resistant to. Now, we tested it on animals, and animals were the test subject. But what happened was someone did not properly dispose of these animals that these were tested on. and one of them was a bat. So they were not disposed of. They were taken to be disposed of, but instead of being disposed of, it was sold on the black market. And then from there, it spread. And I'm just thinking to myself, I could think of one other time where someone ate a bat and it didn't cause this global pandemic. And in fact, that man is still alive today. And in fact, he's a modern marvel of science, to be quite frank. So I don't know. But
Talking about Ozzy Osbourne?
yeah, I'm talking about Ozzy Osbourne.
Yeah, I can't understand the word he says now. He's like,
but that's what my doctor told me. Now, I specifically asked my doctor, and this is another thing that he said. And when he told me this, my jaw, not literally, but in my mind, my jaw dropped to my crotch. Because I asked him, have these sequences to prove COVID-19 really exist, have they been isolated? Guess what he said? He said, yes, they have, but, and he put this but in here, it's being kept under lock and key for vaccination research.
Oh, gee whiz.
And I'm just, in my mind, I was just thinking, you've got to be fucking kidding me. This thing that has costed millions of jobs, not only here in the United States, but throughout the entire world, it's created a global panic. It's affected billions of people, and this thing has affected trillions of dollars in money. Probably one of the greatest scares of the 21st century. And these motherfuckers have the gall and gumption to keep this thing under lock and key for vaccination purposes. You gotta be fucking kidding me.
Yeah, the big Mamu. Yeah, vaccine research. Okay, so here, there's a lot of revelation going on in this show tonight.
At this point, we should just go to a court and say, it's time to release the RNA code. It's time to isolate it, and time to either just, as we say here in the South, shit or get off the pot.
Get off the pot. Copper divining rods. The genetic RNA sequence to prove that COVID-19 is an actual new species of virus. Is it being kept under lock and key for vaccine research for profit? Yes.
All right, I got a question for it. So copper divining rods. Okay, so they're using it for vaccination purposes. Are they also keeping under lock and key for evil intent and evil research?
Yeah.
So so copper divining rods, is it possible that they're keeping it under lock and key to either release it in the form of a vaccine for the real virus outbreak or turn it into a bioweapon? Is that possible?
Yeah, in other words, what he's saying is that you asked two questions in one sentence.
Okay.
What he's saying is do they have plans for the coronavirus to be a bioweapon? Was that the original intent?
Yeah. Ooh. And
I wonder who is it? Is it the people of that comprise the oligarch? To put it in a mild, general way, yes. So it's not necessarily the Chinese government. No.
Oh no, the Chinese government's involved with this. Okay, so copper divining rods. So will the real virus outbreak happen in the form of the vaccine?
Oh, you mean the depopulation plan?
Well, we don't know what is going to be in the vaccine because the vaccine manufacturers, they've already got blanket immunity to where if someone gets sick or this hurts someone or this kills someone, they have absolute immunity, absolute blanket immunity. They cannot be touched by the vaccine.
Well, it's just a question of all these drug companies. I think 100, I don't know if it was 150, there are quite a bit of them. All these drug companies are just competing with one another to have the final vaccine that is accepted, safe, and effective for the long term. They're just competitors.
I would say so. Well, apparently Russia says they have the first COVID-19 vaccine. But here's what's weird. Putin said that he gave it to his daughter, but he himself will not take it. That's not suspicious as hell.
That reminds me of like when King Henry VIII had the guinea pigs to taste the food and the wine and everything before he ate. He had, in Rome, the Roman emperors did that too. They all did it. So he gave it to his daughter, but he won't take it. He won't take it. His poor daughter, man, this guy has no heart. He would give it to his daughter. Gee.
But yeah, he himself won't take it.
But he himself won't take it. Oh, unbelievable.
But here's his reasoning. He's not sick. She is. Therefore, she needs the vaccine.
I guess he thinks like Trump with his answers. I mean, you can't say he's wrong. It's like, but the thing is, like they said that with hydroxychloroquine. Oh, we only want to give Guinevere, whatever the fuck it's called, and hydroxychloroquine to severe cases. But the damn drug is 65 years old, and it's been proven prophylactic, preventative, as well as stopping the virus from replicating. Anthony Fauci in 2005, that article that I posted from 2005 admits, he calls it a wonder drug. He says it prevents viral infection and it stops viruses dead in their tracks from replicating. And then now he flip-flops and he says, oh no, nothing works. Gotta have that vaccine. Gotta have that vaccine. Now, all else will not work. Now, copper divining rods, is Dr. Fauci really a flip-flop Fauci with the floy? Is he full of crap when he says nothing will work except the vaccine?
Yeah. I got one. Let's see what the divining rods have to say about this. So, copper divining rods. Will Donald Trump fire or can Dr. Fauci?
I wish he does. I mean, as much as the guy's so experienced for decades and in this infectious diseases, I wish. I'm getting tired of listening to his raspy voice constantly change his mind about everything. Hold on, Nina says something. Actually, malaria comes from a parasite on the mosquito, just like the bubonic plague was caused by a flea on the rat. That's interesting. I'm not sure if it's a lung disease, but
I would say it'll affect the lungs because, I mean, if hydroxychloroquine works in terms of treatment of COVID-19, but it works for malaria, but also works in terms of autoimmune disease, I would say probably so to some extent. There's got to be somewhere in there that they decide to go ahead and say, yeah, it does. I mean, why wouldn't it?
Well, it's made from quinine, chloroquine, and hydroxychloroquine. It's made from quinine, which is from the quinine tree in Africa. Yeah, not just because I love tonic water, but it is. And but the symptoms we looked that up one time. I don't know if it was with you.
Yeah, it was with me.
We looked it up online, the symptoms of malaria, and they were very similar to influenza.
Right. And here's another thing, and you all are going to be shocked to hear this. So, about a month or so ago, my wife and I went to the only concert that was going on in the entire world in Roanoke, Virginia, about a month or so ago. So, we got to see the 80s band Dokken. And I got to say, it was a hell of a show. But the opening band was supposed to be Lynch Mob. George Lynch was Dokken's guitarist. Well, one of his family members had an emergency, and then he couldn't make it. So the opening band was a Virginia native band out of Richmond called Red Rain. And Red Rain did meet and greets with everyone, but no one really wore masks because it was too fucking hot. It was like 97 degrees and 100% humidity at 6 p.m. in the afternoon. So if you would have wore a mask in like 10 minutes, you probably would have had a heat stroke. But before we went in, they did screen people. You did fill out a questionnaire, have you had a cough, a sneeze within 48 hours? Have you had a fever and this and that? And they did temperature checks. So it was a screened, vetted event. Now, you would have thought that going to that concert, and while I was there, I mean, people weren't packed in like sardines, but they were giving people respect and respecting people's space. But here's what's weird. That was a month ago. I didn't get sick, although you would have thought that would have been a case sentence that me and my wife would have gotten it. I didn't get sick. My wife, who's immunocompromised, did not get sick. None of the band members who did the meet and greet for Red Rain got sick. And then also Dawkins, even though he wasn't doing meet and greets, even just by doing the concert, and he flew out from California, and then he did another show in Maryland, and then flew back to California a few days later, he didn't get sick. To my knowledge, no one at that concert got sick, and it did not contribute to the spread of this. So it's now time to ask the real questions. What the fuck is going on? It's now time to ask these people, okay, well, if they went to a concert and one of these people was immunocompromised, you would have thought that it would have made them sick, but it didn't. So what is going on here?
Yeah, what is going on?
So it's time to ask the question. What are these people getting sick with? And what are these people dying of? Because obviously, if someone gets sick, they're going to count it as COVID. If someone dies, they count it as COVID. So what is going on? It's now time to ask our leaders and our politicians. It's time to explain yourselves. It's time for honesty, and it's time to end this charade. Tell us the fucking truth, or get the hell out of the way to where we can find the truth ourselves. Because enough's enough.
Yeah, like Trump said a lot of things, but he said he put a block on something from Europe to the United States. But Andrew Cuomo says, no, 3 million people from Europe during the pandemic, not all at once, but they all flew from Europe. When they had it really bad in Europe, they flew to the United States. And that's how COVID-19 arrives in the Northeast, at least. And then, of course, the Asian flights were blocked. That was the first thing. Now, how it got to Washington and the nursing home, the state of Washington, I don't know. But Washington should have been blocked. State of Washington, Asian countries, and Europe, all plane flights, I would have stopped immediately. Excuse me. We would not have had this problem that we have now in certain states.
Well, here's what's interesting. So Bill Lee, our governor, he's stepped back. He's not done a total statewide mask mandate. He's left it up to the counties. Well, our county here in Sullivan County has now extended it to September 12th. Man, when they announced the extension, people on Facebook got pissed. People here in Sullivan County are pissed. They want the answers, they want the truth, and they're tired of this stuff, just like I am.
Yeah. Now,
in fact,
yeah, go ahead.
What I was saying is that, in fact, last night when I was at work, because I talk to customers. I'm not one of those really boring cashiers that just goes through the motions and does their job. I actually talk to people, and people talk with me. We still act like human beings despite what's going on, even though they don't want us to. And just talking with the population here in my area, I had this one woman literally in front of me. She took off her mask and threw hers in the trash and said, I can't take this anymore. I will not conform to this anymore. She said, it's too hot. I've worn these things for months now, and I can tell it's jeopardizing my health. It's making it more difficult for me to breathe. Now, and I've said, even though we're supposed to enforce the mask mandate, I don't enforce it. I just said, well, ma'am, I'm sorry you feel that way. I don't enforce the mask mandate. If you come in, I can't stop you from wearing one. I know they say there's exceptions, and in some places they ask. I just say, if you come without a mask, I just assume you either have a medical condition or you just don't want to wear one.
Well,
It's not my place to ask. I don't have the authority to ask.
well, don't they have the plexiglass barricades like they have in Whole Foods over here?
Well, they got it like in the front, but they don't really have it like off to this side or this side. But the plexiglass is covered pretty well. So, but I still, I at work I still have to wear the mask. But we're currently working on me getting a face shield because my medical exception was just here in the most recent week. I've only had it for a week or so, and
Okay.
I had a talk with my manager, and I just point blank asked him. I said, "What is it going to take for these people to stop and to just stop the pushing?" Because he said before we started this conversation, he said we're supposed to start cracking down on people, the employees wearing them, and not pulling them down when people aren't around and all this. I'm like, but are you going to? And he said no. I said, all right, let me ask you a serious question. What really will happen if we just outright resist and we don't enforce this and we ourselves don't wear it? What really can be done? The police are not enforcing it. I know they in areas they tried police enforcement. That didn't work. In fact, it just made things worse. It made the people hate police more than what it already was. And in other areas, they tried the health department crackdowns. That didn't work. In fact, that got met with more opposition and more resistance than the police enforcement. And I said, even though they mandated now on company policy, what happens if we show up to work and just don't wear them? What are they going to do? Fire us all? I mean, enough's enough, man. We're going to have to just rise up and just take these things off and tell people no. Because if we don't, they're just going to keep going. But what are the consequences if we don't? If we
Well,
just say no, we're not going to.
I mean, thankfully, all these businesses have the plexiglass barricades, which, by the way, the laser scanner can scan your QR code on your cell phone right through the plexiglass. Because I use I get the Amazon Prime QR code. They own Whole Foods, and it has no problem. It scans it right through. And I don't know. I really don't know when the real truth is going to be revealed by mainstream media, general population. I really don't know. But let me ask Anina: is the Arcade Museum in New England somewhere? Is this like the arcade museum for the country that you said is not sanitized well?
I would say probably, but yeah, at my workplace, and I told my manager, what I told you, I said, have you really honestly thought the repercussions of wearing this all the time, jeopardizing your health by taking back in your own viral load, other people's stuff going through their mask and landing on your mask? Like, have you all really honestly thought this through to think, maybe we shouldn't be doing this because there are, let's see, 11:59 to walk around with a cane and whip people in public spaces without a mask. No, I'm not doing that. No way. No way. Now, if there was evidence to show that they actually stopped the spread and were effective, I'd be more okay with enforcing it, but I wouldn't really force it. I would still leave it up to personal choice. But after seeing, the viral video where a guy in a spray can shows just how ineffective they really are, no, I'm not enforcing it. Even if they gave me the authority to do it, I'd still say no.
What about a Singapore cane that doesn't do a lot of damage really? It just stings you.
No, that if you think it's bad, I do wash my mask. I literally took it, ran hot water over it, got it nice and wet, took antibacterial soap, got it nice and soapy and sudsy, and thoroughly disinfected it. But still, it doesn't matter how much you clean it. If you wear it, that's your viral load going back into your mouth, and then back up your nose. If you don't believe me, there's a specific medical term they've now came out with called mascony. And have you not heard of it? It's called mascony.
No.
All right, in a nutshell, it's increased acne by mask wearing. Okay, well, what is acne? It's germs and bacteria. Okay, so what's happening is that's getting caught here, that's going back onto your skin. Okay, so if that's going back into the pores of your skin and causing acne, then what in the hell is going back up your nose and down your throat, people? I mean, come on, think this shit
Well,
through.
acne is caused by excessive sebaceous oil produced by the glands mixed with dirt and bacteria, and it gets trapped in the hair follicle that like the peach fuzz that you can't normally see. It goes into the hair follicle, and it's a little tiny infection. And a pimple is an infection of the inner hair follicle by sweat. When you sweat excessively, the body excretes, I guess, more sebaceous oil, and all that sweat, perspiration, clogs the follicle. Similar to, people with an oily scalp or dandruff. It clogs the follicle, and it's the bacteria that causes the pimple. You're right. And if you're wearing a mask too long, especially in a hot climate, and people that are driving, these numbskulls that are driving with a mask on, and wearing a mask when they're not supposed to, like if there's nobody around you, you turn the mask into a chin strap, you pull it down. Or if you're driving, why are you wearing a mask in a car? And then the gloves, like I told you off the air, people are wearing gloves all day as they're shopping. They're touching everything, their phone, the money, the groceries, the packages. I mean, they're driving with the same frigging gloves. You're supposed to use it for one purpose and remove it the right way, inside out, and toss it.
Right, but still, you wear the gloves. Even if you pull the mask down as a chin strap, you're still, using your hands, and there's still going to be stuff on your hands. So that stuff that's on your hands is going to get transferred to the cloth. Now, when you go and manipulate that, guess what? That can fly off of your hands, and that could land in your eyes. That can go back into the mask. And then once you put that back over your nose and mouth, that could give it a great opening to go up the nose and back down the throat. So that's why I'm saying masks are going to do more harm than good all around. That's why I don't wear one. And I'm not going to wear one now.
I would say HIV is worse than the side effects of a drug. I mean, I'd rather have not be sick, but so what I'm saying is, the respiratory droplets of someone talking to you, and the doctor proved this. Someone would have to speak to you for hours of chatter, like in a normal distance before the pandemic, in order for you to absorb the aerosol from such a person. But I was gonna say something that she mentioned. Coffee filters. I get the metal one, the mesh one, made of steel and plastic. The one that you could keep washing. I use that coffee filter.
Yeah, but
they all have them.
Yeah, so even if you care for one, but like I said, you were talking about you don't want people's aerosols and droplets on you. Well, if someone is, even if they have one on or not, and they're in a public area or they're in a space period, and you just happen to walk in that area where they've been, and I mean, even though they could have been long gone, there's going to be so much shit in the air just by virtue of them being there that is going to get trapped right there. So whether it's skin flakes whether it's hair, whether it's their droplets, their aerosols. There's a bunch of nasty shit in the air,
Yeah.
period. So it's going to get on you whether you wear one or not.
And
But it,
yeah, go ahead.
but having that magnet right there on your face, paradoxically, will increase the chances of you getting sick.
Well, yeah, that's true. Now, she was right. Nina's right. Then they touch their face with their dirty, filthy, germy, used gloves. And you know what else I disinfect that nobody does? I
Mm.
disinfect the top, including the cap of the hand sanitizer. I because when people go and grab the when they touch the pump, or when they go to grab the hand sanitizer bottle, they're grabbing it with an unsanitized hand. They're grabbing the cap, the top of it. Well, after I do my hand, I put them on the top of the bottle, sterilize the cap or the pump. If you're in a store, in a retail store, they have the big bottle with the pump. I put a glob of hand sanitizer on the pump because everybody touches the top of that hand sanitizer pump. All the customers that come in there touch it first with an unsanitized hand to get the sanitizer out. Boom, 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 boom. Then they do their hands. Then somebody else comes over and does the same thing. But their hand could have germs on it, bacteria, viruses, whatever. And they're touching the top of the pump. So with my hand sanitizer, I'm always sanitizing the top of the bottle. Because nobody ever does it. But all right, but if you're not sick yet, low viral load, could the drugs offset the natural suppression? Well, antibiotics, the body can become immune to the effect of a specific antibiotic. I mean, you can't pump antibiotics for a long period of time. Like let's say amoxicillin, or even Z-Pak, or ciprofloxacin, Cipro. Okay, you can't, if you're taking it for a specific reason, you have to cycle these things, because the bacterial infection will just not respond to the antibiotic if you take it too long. So if you're saying if you have a low viral load and you're not sick, yeah, you're asymptomatic. Could the drugs offset the natural suppression? If you don't have a good reason, like my doctor says, if you don't have a good reason to take an antibiotic, let's say, or an antiviral drug, then they won't prescribe it, unless you have a bona fide good reason for it. Full-blown AIDS with you're talking about lesions, you definitely want to look into medications. The suppressants are like wearing a mask, but people who are sick should quarantine. But when you are a lost cause, well, you're talking about a serious case, where time is of the essence to save a life. Of course, people should not get to that point, but sometimes it happens. It's funny when you mention the symptoms came quick in onset.
Right.
I've heard that before. I've heard that they generally do come real fast, and it's and then, like, let's say, I find it interesting that the doctor recommended higher levels of zinc, because there used to be an old commercial about a zinc supplement for the common cold, the rhinovirus. Now, did you know that hydrogen peroxide takes longer to kill the rhinovirus than it does COVID-19. The virus that causes the common cold is actually tougher for an antiseptic or hydrogen peroxide to kill than COVID-19. COVID-19 is much more fragile than the rhinovirus. And there's no cure for the rhinovirus. They always say that there's no cure for the common cold. And I'm not sure what family rhinovirus is in, but it's supposed to be, it's supposed to be tough, but it doesn't have it doesn't have a mortality rate. Of course, like influenza definitely does. But it's interesting how fragile the virus is. The viruses do have a lifespan. If they can't find a host to be a parasite off of and get inside a person's body, they do have a lifespan. I think steel and plastic, 2 to 3 days. COVID-19 perishes. Poor material, maybe maybe a few hours or so, and it dies. You don't have to worry about cardboard boxes from FedEx. Things of that nature, but plastic, hard surfaces, I guess, plastic, glass, plexiglass, steel, it could be there for 2 or 3 days.
Right.
But I mean, yeah, I mean, even seawater. I told you that. I read a story about seawater's got billions of viruses in.
Right, but here's another thing I also tapped my doctor's brain on. So I asked him, I said, will we eventually have to just rely upon herd immunity in a no vaccine situation? He said that, yeah, we just might have to. And in fact, here's what he said. He said that in reality, because of the severity in terms of cases being all over the place, and how we do the testing and how the test is all over the place, and we got so many factors that are just all over the place. He said that probably more people have had this and not even realized it, where in all honesty it could have really just been passed off to where they might have just not even had flu-like symptoms, but probably just had so very mild of symptoms, like they might have had a cough or a sneeze, or maybe just at the most, maybe just a very low grade fever, or maybe in some instances, maybe just had like full blown allergies. Well, they didn't put so much stuff together, and inadvertently, they had it and could have spread it to other people, but because the spread was so mild that they wouldn't have thought to have gotten tested. So he said that actually probably more people have had it than have realized it and have recovered from it than what we realize. But he said, here's where things are going to run into a problem. He said, eventually we're all going to get this. And in fact, you might have already had it and not even realized it. Your wife probably might have already had it and not even realized it. But here's the problem we're going to run into. He said, yeah, they are talking about T-cell immunity, which will build herd immunity. But there's still so much about this that we don't know. He said, we don't know if it, once we get all this under control and it runs out of people to infect, we don't know if it will reinfect people within a short amount of time or in a long period of time, or we don't know if that the T-cell immunity really will give the best protection, because of we don't know how quickly this thing might mutate, how quickly this might come back. We still have a lot of unknown factors, so we're just going to have to kind of do a wait and see game. But he said, as it sits right now, the vaccine, they say they might have a vaccine in December, but if you've had it and you have T-cell immunity, which you would get just inadvertently by having it, you wouldn't need the vaccine. The vaccine would be for people who really are really immunocompromised and need it to actually kind of morph into their DNA. And I'm just like, wait, morphing into their DNA? What are you talking about? That just set off a red flag. I'm just like, the vaccine morphing with DNA. I'm just thinking,
I
what are
don't.
they going to do with the vaccine? Is it going to alter DNA to people? What is this thing going to do?
It was just like the island of Dr. Moreau. I don't feel. I don't feel. I don't get a warm, fuzzy feeling about what you said about that. Morphing into the DNA. Now, Typhoid Mary was asymptomatic, right? She was just a carrier. She was a carrier that never stopped carrying it, I guess, and she lived her life in isolation. Interesting. It was a virus going around. Papa caught it. He died last spring. Who? Your dad? Your father? I'm sorry to hear that, Nina. He died last spring, and now Mama doesn't seem to want to do much of anything. You talking about your parents?
Yeah, actually,
Sorry to hear that, man.
but here's what's interesting. So last year there was a really bad flu outbreak. I mean, last year was probably one of the worst that it's been in a long time. I think they estimated that there was anywhere between 24 million and like 59 million either confirmed or possibly confirmed cases of the flu last year. So if we're talking upwards of 60 million, then that's 1 out of every 5 people. That's 20% of the US population just right there getting the flu. But I'm glad that she mentioned that because later on in the year, and I've told you this, and my mom, as well as other one of my family members, said they got extremely sick around October or November of last year. And they said that it literally brought them down for at least a week, but they didn't. They were okay for a week. That was when they really brought them down. But they said what really was the worst was when they were getting over it, when they were recovering. But when they started talking about this new coronavirus, they were like, that I could have potentially had that. But wait, how could I potentially had that if, this didn't come over from China until January? And then I told you about the story of where I know this woman that works at a Subway here, and it's one of our favorite Subways we like to go to, and her husband got whatever this is around October, November last year, and they ran all sorts of tests on him. They tested him for strep, they tested him for flu, they tested him for the whole 9 yards. Ran so many labs on him to try to figure out what was wrong with him. They couldn't. So eventually it got labeled as a virus of unknown origin.
Gee.
So even though my doctor said that, we now know where coronavirus has come from, but the question is, okay, so they have the sequences or the sequences isolated, but it's being kept under lock and key for vaccination. Last year we had a really bad flu outbreak. Then we had something very interesting towards the latter part of the year 2019, and then now we have this. But there's just so many different things, and when you try to put the pieces of the puzzle to try to see where they fit, you're just left with a bunch of puzzle pieces and a puzzle that doesn't fit. It's like this piece doesn't connect with that piece doesn't connect with this piece, and it's just we got so many pieces here and none of it is connecting. What is going on here?
Yeah. I don't know. All I know is there's a lot more to this than meets the eye, and the not just the American people, the general world population is being kept in the dark, obviously, and I think the sinister powers that be are behind it, just like the same oligarchy that rigs the elections every 4 years. And you notice it, no matter who campaigns, no matter how much campaign money they raise from regular people, they never get nominated. And then there's something. I mean, before we start hearing the truth, we first have to have honest government, which is a big joke. But I was reading an article that that they're trying to abolish the electoral college, and actually they should abolish not only that, but they should abolish super delegates in the Democratic Party. All delegates. It should be one person, one vote, and that's it.
Right. Well, it's funny you mentioned that because, I've been doing tarot card readings here recently, and more they are indicating that in September something big is going to happen. That all of the lies, all of the deception, everything is going to be exposed. And here's what it indicates. It indicates that the whole month of September and the whole month of October, there's going to be like an engagement of information warfare. There's going to be a lot of stuff being flung at Trump. There's going to be a lot of stuff Trump flings back. And it's going to be a constant bickering between Biden and Trump, as well as the Democrats and Republicans. But here's what I find very interesting. I know what they're going to do. So they're going to ramp up the lockdowns even more. And in fact, it's already started. If you look at Melbourne, Australia, and look at New York City, where they have police checkpoints, it literally looks like the cities are about ready to go under full lockdown and martial law. I'm not kidding. It literally fucking looks like that. So I would say what they're going to do is in areas where they know they can control people like the big cities, they're going to literally ramp up the lockdowns there and place the cities under martial law. And then out in the countryside where they know that they can't lock people down and can't quarantine people, they're just going to keep it isolated to the cities. That's why I've been telling people the cities are crumbling, the cities are collapsing. Get out now while you got the chance, because you might not get this chance again for a long time.
Well, New York's crime rate is skyrocketing since Antifa and Black Lives Matter. I mean, they started off with good intentions, and they ended up becoming thugs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because this is what's very interesting. So the Democrats have been coming out and saying a lot of different things that should definitely be raising the eyebrows of the American people. And Trump has already hinted that he intends to fire Fauci, and he intends on appointing a new doctor. We don't exactly know who this doctor is, but from what we could tell so far, this new doctor he intends on picking is going to be a Stanford doctor who absolutely despises Dr. Fauci. So we're going to get an anti-Fauci appointed doctor by Donald Trump. And my guess is that is when he is going to blow the whole cover on everything. That's when he's probably just going to come right out and say the hydroxychloroquine works, zinc works, the Z-Pak antibiotic works. As long as you have plenty of zinc and you take care of yourself, you won't get it. You will slow the spread. You will drop the infection pool, and we can get this situation under control, and they'll roll back restrictions. But that's not what the Democrats want. What you'll see is by Trump doing what he's doing now, when he appoints his new doctor, and then when the Democrats and Republicans probably are not going to come to an agreement with this new stimulus package, then he's just going to pass stimulus by executive order. And to be honest, the stimulus proposals that he has, not only for stimulus checks, as well as, cutting the payroll tax cut and doing all of that, that's astronomically better than the Democrats and Republicans have combined. But there's one thing that is being thrown around, and it's actually not true. People are saying that this is coming from defunding Social Security. Well, Social Security is not being defunded. this stimulus is not coming from the Social Security or Medicare. It's not coming from social safety nets. This money has actually already been pre-allocated as a result of the emergency funds that President Trump has already put out there. So that's where this stimulus is coming from. Now, if there was a third round of stimulus and there's not more money allocated for emergency funds, then yeah, it might. Now, people are saying the payroll tax cut through the end of the year. Well, in terms of Social Security as well as Medicare and Medicaid on the state level, that's already kind of been crumbling as is anyway, just because people are not working. People are drawing so much unemployment that it's literally draining the government of funds. So it's already being defunded, not by another stimulus package, but just by people being unemployed and people being out of work. People are not getting the employment. They're not working the hours, if they're really working hours at all. And there's just not enough revenue going back in. And that's what's killing it.
There's no, if people are not working, there's no payroll tax revenue being collected.
Right.
I mean, but I know California Governor Newsom is going to well, he's already done it. He says if Trump wants to be on the ballot in California, he has to disclose all of his tax records.
Right. Now,
but Southern District Attorney, Southern New York, is already acquiring that.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that too, because here's another thing that the Democrats are also going to do that is going to definitely raise eyebrows. So if you think that there's going to be election fraud on both sides, but the Democrats are really going to ramp up election fraud, because here's what they're going to do. So, judging by the way things are going, and there's this guy, I forget his name, and he makes predictions as to what presidential outcomes will be, and he's been right.
An interview, yes, he's an old timer that has been right 100% of the time.
Well, he said Trump's going to win in another election, and in fact, he's going to win in a landslide. And we talk about that off air as to why Trump is going to win the 2020 election.
Well, he said no. He said Trump is going to lose. If it's the same guy, this could be another person.
It could be, but no, Trump is going to win. But here's what's interesting. So here's how the Democrats are going to engage in voter fraud. And it's going to be worse than the Republicans. So, yeah, California and New York are going to press Trump on the tax issues. Okay, so if Trump were to go right ahead and release his taxes, and that gets him ballot access in those states, California, New York, in those states, they're going to lean blue no matter what. So even if Trump gets on the ballot in those states, it's not going to be enough to pull enough from those states to secure Trump from that election.
Yeah, because they're blue states.
Yeah, they're blue states. They're going to lean blue. Biden's got those states locked in no matter what. So if Trump doesn't release the tax returns, he's not going to win in California, New York. Might as well go ahead and just throw that out the window, because it's not happening.
Because especially if he's got Sanders, every time I talk, I hear static. As Sanders if Sanders feels that Biden and Harris are moving more to the left, he'll get people from the Sanders campaign.
Right.
So it'll be close. I don't know about landslides, but it might be close.
No, here's where it's going to really become the landslide. So California, New York, already gone to Biden, but Texas and Florida are going to lean Trump. All right, so
that figures.
Texas gets Trump a big pull. Florida gets Trump a big pull. Now, we have all these other states. We already know that, the Midwest like in North and South Dakota. And in fact, the South Dakota governor explained how she was able to not quarantine, not lock down, and not do fear mongering, but still keep cases of COVID low in the state of South Dakota. Here's what she said. We encourage people to take responsibility and accountability for their actions and their health. And, we educated people about self-care, and, people followed it. And then we didn't lock down. We didn't do any of this. And in fact, we're still doing just fine. So North and South Dakota, I can already tell you right now, that's going to go Trump. And then the whole Midwest is going to go Trump. Now,
well, Wisconsin and Michigan might.
Because of what Governor Whitmer's done and because of what Governor Whitmer did in Michigan and what the Wisconsin governor did, they were leaning blue, but now they're going to lean red. So Wisconsin and Michigan is going to go Trump.
I hope you realize Trump and his party are light years away from being socialists. I hope you realize that.
I know, but I'm just saying how and why he's going to win. And I'm going through the map as to how he's going to do it. But you could think the Democrats in Michigan and Wisconsin doing all that bullshit that led them to go back on the red. So there's Michigan and Wisconsin, Trump. The western states, they're going to go Trump. The only exclusion will be California, Oregon, and Washington. They're going to go Biden. No ifs, ands, or buts. The southern states, they're going to go Trump. No ifs about it.
Yeah.
Now, here's where things get interesting.
Minnesota is been traditionally a blue state. Minnesota.
Well, they're a swing state. It can go either way. Minnesota.
They got the squad. Michigan, Minnesota. They got the squad members campaigning.
Well, Minnesota has gone both ways. They're a swing state. Not all people think Minnesota's a swing state, but they're a swing state. They're one of the purple ones. So I can tell you right now, Minnesota, they're going to go red.
You know what? I don't want to promote. I don't want to encourage people to vote for Donald Trump.
Well, I'm not encouraging people to vote. I'm just saying, how this is going to turn out, because this is how people are going to vote. Now, the East. This is where things are going to get more interesting. Virginia, my home state, is a swing state. It could go either way. Virginia right now is an unknown. I know Southwest Virginia, where I'm from, is definitely a purple area. It can go either way. A Democrat can win, a Republican can win. We'll just have to wait and see. Virginia is an unknown.
Red. The Carolinas are red. Georgia is red. Probably. Yeah. Alabama.
Right. Yeah, the southern states, they're going to go red. At this point, Biden is not going to win in the southern states. You can forget that. So the South is going to go red. Virginia is unknown. It could go either way. Now, Maryland, probably Biden. Pennsylvania, we'll have to wait and see. New York, definitely Biden. New Jersey, definitely Biden. I can definitely see that.
New England,
Vermont,
Biden, probably.
Well, maybe not. Vermont, we'll have to see. I know Sanders is from Vermont, and I know Sanders is, wanting people to go to the Biden camp, but we'll have to see Vermont. Vermont, unknown. New Hampshire, kind of an unknown, but I definitely would see. I would be surprised if Biden won, but if he didn't, I wouldn't be surprised either. But New Hampshire's another swing one, still an unknown. Maine, Maine is tricky. Maine's been a swing state before, so we'll just have to wait and see. But Ohio, I would say Trump. But here's also another thing the tarot cards have shown. Okay, so Trump wins, but here's where it's going to get interesting. The Tower card shows up in November. And if you don't believe what I'm about ready to say, go look this up because it's in the articles. You just got to find them. Pelosi and the Democrats intend to where even if Trump does win, they're going to have their own separate inauguration and basically have two presidents at the same time. The blue states, they'll have like their little It won't be formal, but it'll basically be like their own little secession, to where there would basically be two governments, two presidents.
Nancy Pelosi's been awfully quiet through all this turmoil.
Because she's plotting and planning for what's about ready to happen. Because here's what's going to happen. Say, all right, so both end up winning, technically. Trump wins and Biden wins. Biden and the Democrat states secede. Even though it's still part of the United States, they'll have like their own little coexisting government alongside what's already going on. What will happen is Biden will win in those states, and he will be the president in those states. And he will step down. Kamala Harris will then take over. And Nancy Pelosi has been making a lot of plays in the background to where if Biden steps down, Kamala Harris comes in, she will literally make Pelosi her VP. I'm not kidding. You can't make this shit up.
So it's gonna be a totally feminist government.
In the blue states, in the seceded blue states. But here's what is going to ultimately happen. Where you've got basically two existing governments and two inaugurations of two presidents of this United States. It's going to fuck everything up. That will literally plunge this country into civil war or another revolution. This has been planned many years in the making, and now they're finally thinking of doing it. If you don't believe me, just go look at the articles. These are Pelosi's words.
You know what? This country. Well, I was never a fan of the system here. I knew it was bullshit the whole time. Even when I read my history books, all the crap and the lies in the history books. I was never a fan of the system in this country. I was never a fan of capitalism. I'm definitely not a fan of Republicans at all. I'm not crazy about Democrats either. Maybe Democrats of the long past I'm a fan of, JFK, FDR, but no. I'm like, whatever true socialist parties are in existence, I follow them, even though Americans won't embrace them because they've been brainwashed to demonize socialism, and because they automatically think of no rights, totalitarian regime, so on and so forth. Like what China's want to do with Hong Kong. And Hong Kong wants democracy, which I don't know how they're going to get it because Hong Kong was turned over to mainland China. So
right,
so
that's what I was also telling you off air. I mean, the Democrats and the leftists do not realize how bad they fucked this shit up. They do not really understand the full scale of the consequences of everything they have done.
Yeah, by going with Biden and screwing over Sanders and going with the guy like Biden, Trump is gonna bombard him with a meteor shower about everything in Biden's past. He's gonna go for the jugular, and he's gonna do the same thing with Kamala Harris when arresting. She was putting so many black men in prison for lousy marijuana.
Yeah, and it's like, well, how can you say you're not a racist when you're being racist against your own race, especially when it comes to marijuana convictions?
That's ridiculous. Marijuana conviction is like putting somebody in prison for being a madam of a brothel. Like arresting prostitutes. And even worse, arresting the Johns, the customers. I mean, that's like prohibition. They're just as ridiculous as prohibition, or a homeless person being arrested for vagrants by sleeping on a park bench. I mean, these are not real crimes. This is part of maybe class warfare, where they have corporate privatized prisons, and they have legalized slavery, and they want to privatize prisons with as many people as they can and get that free labor for the corporate fat cats. I'm telling you, this is the devil's economics, without a doubt, capitalism. But Christopher, in 2020, they're gonna take his DNA and they're gonna try to resurrect him in a laboratory. I know they tore his statues down because Columbus. They blame Columbus's voyage for the slave trade and the Native Americans perishing. Meanwhile, the Vikings were really the first people to reach the New World. Leif Erikson. They don't give them credit, though.
Yeah, you're right. They don't. But to kind of drive the point home, so it's bad enough that the left has fucked everything up for what they've done throughout this whole entire thing. But the biggest point and the biggest shot they really missed, and I don't think we're going to get it again anytime soon. This is probably the one shot in at least 20 years, I would say. They literally missed the shot of getting healthcare and education as a right. And the reason why they did that, because they demonized Sweden and their approach to this, and how Sweden never had to go to anyone. They didn't have to go to Finland. They didn't have to go to Norway or Denmark to any of their neighbors for any kind of aid or any kind of assistance. They didn't have to go to any international body for any aid or assistance. They just decided, you know what, to minimize economic damage and to just have this pay off in the long term. No quarantines, no lockdowns, no masking, no distancing, no nothing. We're going for the straight herd immunity. And guess what? It's paying off. And no, what does the left and the Democrats do? They demonize Sweden. And you know what I find very ironic? The right is praising Sweden. They're the ones who demonize Sweden, but in this instance, they're praising it. And the people who've been praising them for a long time are demonizing them. What the fuck is going on in Crazy Town?
The Republicans don't want a single payer universal health care or free public university either. Well, you saw the debate, the Democratic primary debate. They were all against Medicare for all of them except Bernie Sanders. I think Elizabeth Warren kind of was, but she wasn't all in. I think Sanders was really the only one, and Tom Steyer, the billionaire, the progressive billionaire, he was for many progressive programs and causes, but 99.9% of everybody on that stage, they were corporatists. They were the whole party fucked the people that were counting on them and were behind them. They sold out. They sold out the 98%, the bottom 98%.
Yeah, they did. But that's why I want to drive that point home is, yeah, even though the Democratic candidates that were on the stage, only one or two were really voting for universal healthcare and really making a push for it. But the other thing that I wanted to mention is, like I say, I want to point the finger at leftists and give them the blame along with the Democrats, is a lot of leftists in this country went for what the Democrats have done in this instance and went along with the demonization of Sweden. And instead of them being independents or not towing the typical leftist line that Democrats supposedly want to toe and really preach, that was the opportunity where they could have, introduced into the American populace for once and probably our history, and this might not happen again for another 20 years, to where people got to talking about having healthcare as a right, seeing what Sweden did and how they treat healthcare as a right and how their herd immunity strategy paid off, to where people would be like, you know what, that doesn't sound like such a bad idea after all. And it got into a serious topic of discussion.
Now
but they blew it.
Nina says Sweden and Germany sold out to China. What?
I don't know about selling out, but
Well, she's right about the history books. Wait a minute. This one statement she made. We're all dumplings. What? Oh, we're all dumping our intellectual property. Oh, that. Okay. Intellectual property. Okay. Well, China just does reverse engineering on everybody, and then they go like this. Haha, you can't sue us. We're China. The China's sneaky. They have a habit of doing that, but their quality control in general sucks still.
yeah, anything. A lot of times, if it comes from China, it's going to be a piece of shit. Like, I'm trying to think. I got something from China before all this started. Trying to think, what was it? But man, it was like one of the biggest pieces of shit that I've ever seen China produce. And I know China produces a lot of shit, but this is some bad shit, even by China's shitty standards.
Okay, I ordered this on Amazon Prime because it was cheap. Wally what was that? Wally was on Leave It to Beaver, right? All right, so obviously it's from China. You know, every time I try to put this glove on, it tears. It tears from
Cheap
the
Chinese
bottom.
plastic.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull it onto my hand, and the whole bottom tears like a cheap balloon for a child. And you know, that's just an example of quality control. Mercedes and Volvo both really, those greedy bastards. Mercedes and Volvo are manufactured in China. What
I would say, but I'm gonna run to the bathroom. I'll be back here in just a second.
You see where the mentality for business and corporate America comes from? It comes from the Europeans that colonized and settled the United States. They still got the same mentality: greed, cutting corners, going for cheap labor. Put the assembly plants in third world countries or China. They work real cheap because they got a few billion people. Instead of like going for focusing and emphasizing high quality like South Korea and Japan, they really did that, huh? Well, shame on Sweden and Germany. They have been inducted into the Chiselers Hall of Shame. But it doesn't surprise me, really. You know, China makes automobiles, but they're crap. They're not safe. That's why, you know, you see them in Egypt and they have them in the Middle East for sale, but not in Europe and the United States. They assemble some in South Carolina, but maybe just for show. Yeah, well, weren't they assembling Toyotas in California and Hondas in Ohio? I think Ohio is a Japanese word that means something. Maybe that's why they chose Ohio. Yeah, because they don't have to pay the export, whatever, tariffs, the taxes. It's interesting. Well, I can imagine the United States slapping them with heavy tariffs. She's saying that they were assembled in Volvo and Mercedes is assembled in China. Well, remind me if I win the lottery not to buy a Mercedes then.
No, I wouldn't buy a Mercedes. You wouldn't be able to give me a Mercedes for free as a gift. I can't stand them.
They don't excite me. They're very boxy. It's like a box. Volvo is a box too.
Well,
Toyota's American, yeah, robotics, right? I hope it's not assembled by American workers, because they come to work high and drunk. You know, they're probably there. I want a well-built vehicle. Honda,
Well,
Acura. Yeah, I would go for a Honda Accord, actually, over a European car. I go for a Honda Accord. My sister has one. She says it's pretty damn good.
yeah, just Mercedes. They're like very over-engineered cars. They're very hard to work on. They're very sophisticated pieces of machinery. Now, don't get me wrong. If you baby them and you take care of them and you don't put a lot of miles on them, a Mercedes can last forever. But if you rack up the miles on them and you let them age and you neglect them, they turn into bottomless, endless money pits.
Yeah, BMWs are known to end up in a shop a lot. Also, I told Nina when she was doing a show with me Friday that you showed me that video on YouTube of a Pontiac Trans Am drag race to the Camaro Z28, and the Camaro whizzed right by the Trans Am. Won the drag. Yeah,
Yeah.
that she fixes. She's a really good mechanic, and she does computers like you do also. So she knows a lot about cars. What do we got here? Mercedes invented the engine. Well, that was the daughter of the owner of the company, Mercedes. That was their first name, I think. My diesel Mercedes had what, 375,000 miles? Is that what she?
I mean, that's why I say you have to baby them and really take care of them. Like I said, they're kind of, you can kind of do stuff with Mercedes and make them look cool, but they're boring and they're bland and they're dull. Now, if you want a somewhat cool car from Germany, I'd go for the Porsche, because Porsche has all kinds of different models of cars. They have some really basic cars that are not really high tech and really overly sophisticated, and you can still get them for a good price.
Oh, what's the name of that exhaust system that you like, that you ordered to give the car that deep resonant sound, that blah blah blah, blah. You know, what was that?
It on my car specifically, or
The one you showed me that you like. I don't know if you have it yet, but the one you showed me that you really want.
it depends. You know, there's different types of exhaust systems that can do that. So on my Honda, I don't have a full exhaust system yet. I have an aftermarket muffler. It's an Evil Energy canister muffler. So what it looks like a cannon on the outside. So you have your inlet, then you have the canister, which is the body of the muffler, and then you have a bigger exhaust tip as an outlet. Cherry bomb, yeah. I've ran cherry bombs on different cars. I wouldn't run one on an import. Now a V8, yes, but an import, no. But it's an Evil Energy canister muffler. Like when you look at it, it's basically a cherry bomb glass pack. I mean, a straight through muffler basically is a glass pack. When you look at it from the end to end, it's straight through. It looks like just a straight piece of pipe, and there's little holes or perforations inside of the body of the muffler. Now, what happens is when the exhaust waves and the exhaust pulses go through the muffler, they go through those little holes and perforations, and they have packing material between the inner pipe and the shell. Now, that's known as absorption, so it'll basically absorb sound, but the problem is they're great mufflers when they're new, but as they get old, that packing wears out and they grow louder and louder and louder and louder because they're not absorbing sound. When eventually it goes through that perforation, it goes between the perforated pipe and the shell of the muffler, it basically turns into a resonance chamber. So instead of an absorption, it now turns into a destructive interference to where it bounces sound waves around and it still muffles, but it's louder. But a lot of imports like to run them because they're going to give you the most flow, the most performance. But on a lot of imports, they have that really high pitched, angry bumblebee sound, and I cannot stand it. Now on my car, where I've got a header, I still have the catalytic converter on, I still have the resonator, then the muffler. It's got a nice, deep, sporty tone. Now, whenever the next round of stimulus comes out, I'm going to take off the stock converter and I'm going to put a high flow on it, and then I'm going to tune it to where it runs perfectly. Now, when that happens, it's going to take on a much deeper, sportier sound. Now, there's that. The Cherry Bomb, of course, glass pack, that came out in the 60s. Those go on old school V8s, hot rods. They sound pretty good. Another one that people like to run are Flowmasters, the chambered mufflers. Those on a V8 will give you a nice, deep rumble, and they have like an echo to them. They have like this really interesting, hollow echo to them. Now, I sent you an information video about all the different Flowmaster mufflers they have out there, and I've ran plenty of Flowmasters along with Cherry Bombs on cars, and I would say probably the best all-around muffler. If you want performance but not necessarily sound, I wouldn't go with the Cherry Bomb, because Cherry Bombs can get pretty loud. But if you like that nice, deep rumble that's not over the top, your best bet's go with Flowmaster, because they got all kinds of mufflers, and they have all kinds of different sounds for everyone. Like that a Jeep video that I sent you of that old Jeep I had with the Flowmaster Super 10, where it's basically a straight pipe, just a little box muffler with two little baffles inside of it. Yeah, that sounded pretty good.
Yeah, a radiator on a new Harley. Now the air-cooled Porsche and Audi is owned by Volkswagen. I remember the old Beetle that was air-cooled.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and those Beetles had longevity. I mean, for those that could tolerate in the wintertime, warming it up before you open that little box where the heat came out of off the engine. But
right.
Anyway, yeah, they were air cooled and they moved pretty good on a highway. I remember.
Yeah. People like to rag on 4-cylinder engines as, not having a great exhaust note or that they're not powerful. I mean, to be honest, a nice 4-cylinder that's properly tuned with a proper exhaust system on it is going to probably get you the gas mileage, the performance, everything you need in the car. Now, I've had Hondas, but I really want to get a Subaru just because Subarus are all-wheel drive as compared to front-wheel drive that Hondas are. And they have what's known as a boxer engine, to where instead of on a 4-cylinder where you've got all 4 cylinders in a row, they have 2 on each side. It looks like an H. Now, Subaru guys and girls like to put the uneven linked headers, and what it does is it splits the exhaust flow and the exhaust pulses to where you're hearing the exhaust note, but you're hearing it split. So there's a gap in between it, because one side is going to be shorter, the other side is going to be longer, and it's going to give it that deep boxer rumble. So I'll try to mimic the sound as best I can. If you put just regular headers on a Subaru with it being the boxer engine, it's going to sound like a rally car. It'll still sound cool, but it's not going to have a rumble. It will be more like a broom, broom, like that type of sound. But when you hear it on a Subaru with the full system and you get that boxer rumble, oh, that is car heaven. Yeah, like she said, overbuilt but loud. There's a point to where, yeah, you could make your exhaust system loud, but you got to find that perfect balance to where it's still loud, but the sound doesn't sound like shit. You got to find that right balance, because, yeah, you could make an exhaust system quiet and it still sound good, but it's like, I wish I had more noise. Sounds great, I just want more of it. It's a trial and error game.
Okay. Well, So, getting back to your prediction with the tarot cards, I was reading that the more you handle the tarot cards and the more you use them, the better, the more accurate and more revealing they become.
Mm-hmm.
Because they get in tune to the energy of the reader.
They do, yeah.
The frequency of the reader.
Right.
But besides that, you also tap into the third eye, which you've been practicing a lot, and now you're able to do it quicker than before.
Yep. I left my third eye open for a whole week. Man, that was exhausting and draining, but I learned a lot.
Okay. Now, well, I did notice that your tarot readings were becoming more revealing, more advanced, because I remember when you showed me your first tarot card books, and then you started doing the readings, and then as the shows progressed, they got better and better. And eventually you're going to go to law school. You'll probably blow right through law school with no problem at all. But let's see. The Beetle engine was so overbuilt it didn't need water to stay cool. America may be too bloated to not need a mask. Too bloated? Well, they're sure bloated on all those beer and booze programs.
Yeah.
That Jay does.
But yeah, and to be quite frank, California, Texas, Florida, and New York, they're always going to be America's problem children. Those four, whenever something happens in America, it is either one of those or all four of those. They're always in trouble. There's always something going on with those four states.
Well, they're densely populated. That's the
and they're the problem kids.
Yeah, you're talking about too many people living too close together. I mean, California is a big state, heavily populated, probably exceeding New York State, most likely. And you got the good, the bad, and the ugly all living in the same region.
Yep.
Like Florida, I told Ronnie S. I says, Florida is full of transients and transplants from other areas, and California's like that too. And you have all kinds of riffraff going to Florida because Miami, the port of Miami, a lot of things are smuggled there, and the Caribbean is right there, and the gateway to third world countries of the Caribbean and Latin America, they're right there. Texas, the border, you got Juarez, Mexico, very dangerous. El Paso on the other side, you got all the border towns are bad because that's where the border is, where they smuggle, and the wall's not going to do a damn thing because they have very modern tunnels with air conditioning. So. But you're right. The big cities, Chicago, Los Angeles, New York. You're right. The big cities, densely populated, expensive to live, job market, except for the yuppies. The people pretty much make pump change that live there. Let's see what we got here. I already did that already. Communal living is a major risk. Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, when my grandfather was around, he told me people had to stay in their neighborhood, otherwise they get the shit kicked out of them. Especially if they came into the Italian neighborhood, like certain individuals happen to stumble over there. they fuck them up.
Yeah, I gotta say, living here in Tennessee is a hell of a lot better than Virginia. At least people here, at least I don't know about the rest of Tennessee, but at least in this part, people have a brain and people know how to fucking use it and people have some common sense.
You know, one time I dated this lawyer, and well, two lawyers, two different occasions. This girl lived in a studio apartment in Midtown Manhattan near the United Nations building, and talk about a chicken coop. Actually, I've seen chicken coops that were bigger than this place. Her rent was very high. It was astronomically high, and Nina's right. Too many people living in these apartment buildings too close together. You got to smell. You got to hear other people's problems. You know, through the wall, you smell them. Then you have people that, it depends on what building and what neighborhood you're in. You have people that get a little too friendly with you, and then they really get friendly with you because they want something, because they're a bunch of moochers and scammers. And I had to tell off this one person, you know, leave me the fuck alone or else. And you know, I had to call the building manager. I mean the main office. I don't owe anything. I don't owe anything to people I don't know, strangers. You know, not my relatives, not my sister. But yeah, she's right. I would love to be in an area with wide open spaces. I can go to lakes, to the sea, go fishing. Commune with nature, the flora and the fauna. You know, fresh air from all the trees, like Mr. Owens has in Tennessee. You know, you can probably see mountains and forests for miles. All
Oh
that,
yeah.
yeah,
Oh yeah.
all that fresh air. And, you know, traffic jams. Well, everybody has them.
Yeah,
You know?
Kingsport, I would say probably 4 to 6. Traffic will be pretty bad. Traffic just in this area is pretty bad around 4 to 6 period because you've got people who live here in Kingsport, and Kingsport itself is a fairly busy city all hours of the day and all hours of the night. So you've got people who live in Kingsport, and they either travel to work here in the city or they live outside the city limits out here in the county. And then you've got Interstate 26, which is always busy. That's the main interstate that gets people from Kingsport to Johnson City or Johnson City to Kingsport. And then you got I-81, which intersects with I-26, and that's a pretty busy area in itself. And then I-81 will take you up to the other city here in the Tri-Cities area known as Bristol. Well, that's on the Virginia and Tennessee side. There's Bristol, Virginia, Bristol, Tennessee. You got a lot of people who live in Bristol that work in Kingsport, or a lot of people who live in Kingsport work in Bristol. So, I mean, all around, there's so much traffic and so much stuff going on. It's unbelievable.
Well, where Nina lives in Rhode Island, I know the traffic is really bad on I-95 and Route 1 going into Boston. I know, and I remember New Haven, Connecticut used to always have bad traffic. But yeah, everybody has their areas. Now Los Angeles has really bad traffic. I knew a guy that used to sit in traffic for a couple hours just to get home from work, and in the hot sun, baking down on his car.
Right. It's not that bad here, but when it's 4 or 6 o'clock, if you're somewhere in Kingsport, stay there. If you're grocery shopping or you're eating out or you're hanging out with someone, stay there.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. As far as highway driving, you just got to time it. You got to know the wrong times and the good time to get on.
Right. But I love it when I get off work at around 11:30, depending. It is so peaceful and it is so quiet in Kingsport, and it's so peaceful and quiet out here. Because what you can do is you can just roll down the windows while you're cruising through the city, and then when you come out here on Highway 93 to come out to my neck of the woods, it's just so peaceful. You can smell the forest, you can smell the trees, you can smell the countryside, and the only person that you see or hear is you. So if you got a car, that's the only sound of you for probably miles. So my car, you just hear a nice sporty Honda with a deep sporty tone coming up and down through here, and it's so peaceful. And we have cats here in the neighborhood, and they're mischievous little idiots. Because the other night I was coming up the neighborhood, and I just about hit one of them because he thought it'd be a bright idea to chase a rabbit at 11:30 at night.
A rabbit? He's trying to take on a rabbit? Wow.
Yeah, he was chasing a fucking rabbit across the road, and I came around the corner and had my brights on. I see the rabbit, phew, the cat right behind it, phew, and I almost hit it. I had to slam on my brakes and almost lock him up to keep from running him over.
Jeez. I, I, I guess it must have been, what was it, look like a big male or just a average cat?
We think it was a kitten, and it recently grew up into a full-blown cat, so I think it's maybe 2 or 3 years old. But he's not very big. He's very agile, that's for sure. I mean, he's like a streak of lightning. He's here and then, phew, gone the next.
I guess that's why rabbits have big floppy feet because running is their only option. That's their
Oh, that rabbit, he was hauling ass, and that cat was hauling ass after it.
I had so many wild rabbits around the house. Outside. Wild rabbits outside. Where my hometown, we had coyotes, wild turkey. I've seen fox, of course, the usual possums and raccoons, but a lot of rabbits, Then the hawks started making nests across the street. All the red-tailed hawks, and then all of a sudden, the rabbits and the squirrels started to become scarce. And then all of a sudden, the hawks decided they don't like my street anymore. They decided to move on. They stopped building nests, and then the rabbits came back.
Right. I think he eventually caught it because in the field about a week or so ago, him and this other cat that I've not seen, they were eating it in the field down below the house. So I think they finally caught it.
They were eating the rabbit.
Uh-huh.
What do cats generally do? They bite it in the back of the neck?
Yeah, that's typically what they do, but we have other outside cats. Cats are really good to keep on the outside, especially if you don't want to bring some indoors, you just want to keep them outdoors. They're really good in terms of keeping pests and other rodents and varmints under control, especially rats and especially mice.
And barn owls. Owls in general are great. Rodent killers. Cat, I guess. The only thing is, as long as they don't get like feline leukemia off of another cat outside or whatever illnesses. If it's a cat that likes to go outside, I guess you don't have to really worry about a litter box. But then again, you have to keep opening the door for it every time it has to go.
Yeah, we had an indoor-outdoor cat, but she's gotten too old. Now she's an indoor cat. I told you about Gemma. I think she just turned 15 here recently, but oh man, she has turned into an old hag and an old bitch like you would not believe.
And that poor cat you had that had the very suspicious death.
Yeah. Still couldn't figure out what really happened, but
Yeah, because cats usually know how to maneuver the house that they live in.
I
You know,
mean, yeah, it's possible, but I've replayed this scenario in my head multiple times and even tried to reenact and recreate it several times, and it just doesn't add up.
do you oh, I I picked up well, now it's bigger. I picked up a small mother-in-law's tongue plant. It was on sale. Now it grew.
Oh boy.
Do you still have the mother-in-law's tongue of your own?
Yeah, she's still here, and
Uh,
it's gotten worse.
Worse than before?
Mm-hmm.
Jeez, holy crap. Before it was bad. Oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so this has to be the most stressful year that I can remember in my lifetime.
And it's gonna get worse.
And because it's like the end of days that the Christians talk about, the end times. It's similar. Not if it gets worse, it'll be similar. But when I was a kid, what a simple life. It was so peaceful. There was no drama. There was no aggravation. It was, I mean, life was, people went out, they had good music, they drank, they had hobbies, they had fun. Yeah, the cost of living wasn't so terrible. Um, Now it's like all these people that are supposedly getting evicted now, or losing their homes. When people are desperate and they're hungry and they have no place to live, then this shit hits the fan. Then people get really angry.
Yeah, and then there's plenty of anger and plenty of rebellion and resistance already going on in America alone. I would honestly say that, if what I said came true, along with what the cards have shown, plus my third eye, to where there is two governments, two presidents, and it breaks out into civil war, my guess is that wouldn't last very long because people in those states, because it really wouldn't be a formal secession, and people would not accept the other government. It would just collapse in on itself.
Well, well, yeah, like Nikita Khrushchev said, the United States will destroy itself from within, like the Roman Empire. But
Right.
all you need is a passport to go to to go from a blue state to a red state. You show your passport. I mean, I got a
Well,
passport.
well, that's just what I'm just piecing together. I'm just like, at this point, there would really be no way that Americans would accept another government, especially if it was like from Joe Biden and the Democrats. They wouldn't do it. They wouldn't go for it. So that's why I was also telling you last night. There is a coup to get rid of him, and I know there are people who want him gone for legitimate reasons, but the people who are doing the coup to get rid of him are not doing it for the honorable and right reasons. That's why it failed then for the impeachment, and it's failing now.
It's like a psychologist said one time on TV years ago, many years ago. He says, if there's a revolution that everybody's screaming, "Oh, we need a revolution," they might just be more corrupt than the system that they replace. They might be even worse. Well, look what happened with Black Lives Matter and Antifa, right? They changed real fast. They got corrupted, and really fast. So Biden and even Trump are not spring chickens anymore. They're up in years. And of course, Biden he's probably close to 5 or 10 years older than Trump, but Trump is in his early 70s. And he talks gibberish, and he's not getting any younger. And Biden is worse communicating. But why did he pick? He picked a real a bulldog of a woman, of a feminist. If something happens and Biden starts walking around in his pajamas and goes totally senile, and she replaces Joe Biden.
Mm-hmm.
I hate to say it, but her personality, her mood swings. She's too much of a bitch. I hate to say
She
it.
is. Yeah, she is.
Be the president of the United States. I mean, she might just pick a feminist vice presidential replacement. Like if she takes Joe Biden's place, she'll pick some neoliberal feminist, and then you'll have a Democrat. You'll have two corporatists that are not too crazy about men running the country.
Yeah, you're right. But when I was telling you earlier about Pelosi ultimately becoming Kamala Harris's VP, she revealed it in a MSNBC interview. I'll have to go back and find the video, but when I find it, I'll link it to you. But here's what she said. She basically admitted that she knows she's second in command and will be second in command when that. I'm trying to think, how did she word it? She knows that she'll be second in command. She's already second in command, and she's been doing a lot of power plays and consolidating her power in the background. But here's what she said. She spoke out of both sides of her mouth. She said that even if Trump legitimately loses, he will not leave. But then yet, even if he does win, he will be looked at as illegitimate. So it's like either way, the Democrats are going to make a move no matter whether Trump wins legitimately or he doesn't.
When I realized Nancy Pelosi was power obsessed, power mad, when she practically demanded that she wanted to be Speaker of the House again. She kept on nagging and pushing to be Speaker of the House for a second time. I'm saying, well, what nerve she has at her age. She was a corporatist before, and she's an old bag. I says, and she had the nerve to be pushy about, like, practically demanding to be Speaker of the House, and she's too fucking quiet during all this shit that's going on. Every time they interview her, she stares, and she's a woman of very few words now. And you would think she would be in front of a mainstream media camera screaming all the time. And Chuck Schumer's like a little namby-pamby. You know, he's got his glasses down to the tip of his nose, and he's like talking like a little wimp. The Democrats really have not been proactive with all the shit that's been going on. They've been like, it's almost like they're sitting back, waiting for the right time to do something.
Yep. They've been doing a lot of power plays and a lot of consolidation of power in the background. That's why, to be honest, they've been pushing all the quarantining and locking down, so that way, you know, they got the police and the military doing their bidding, but then yet, while that's going on and people are being oppressed by all the different means, it creates a distraction and creates, while people are being so angry about what's going on, they're not seeing as to why it's happening, and that's how the Democrats have been able to make all these moves behind closed doors and consolidating power. Now, that's why I found it very odd when Pelosi said where she knows she's second in command and will be second in command. And I'm just like, why would a woman in her position say that? I mean, if Trump wins again, there'd be no way that, you know, Pence wouldn't take over. And even if, you know, Pence couldn't take over, that it would go to her unless she does something dirty. or she's already done something dirty, and she's kind of revealing the plan and being smug and arrogant about it. Like, what are y'all going to do about it? Huh? What are y'all going to do to stop us?
Well, by Governor Newsom demanding the tax returns for Trump to be on the ballot, that means that other Democrat governors can technically do the same thing. And if they find out that Trump is guilty of massive tax evasion, that's probably what they're hoping. They're hoping on that. That's probably what the reality is. That him and his father were real sneaky people. But anyway, if that happens, they might put that together with collusion with Vladimir Putin, and then finally decide to impeach him. You know, who knows what plans they have. But no, listen, no one is above the law, and that includes a Democrat, senator, Congress, governor, a Republican. No one, I mean, the scumbag Mitch McConnell, no one is above the law. And this is the problem we have, because no one's held accountable.
And it doesn't look like they're going to be held accountable anytime soon.
Now, with me and you, they throw away the key. But if you're an elitist, if you're wealthy, and you're in a position of power, which they keep forgetting that they're working for us. You know, they're supposed to be public servants, but I guess they forgot all about that, and they changed it to American dictators. But when they're campaigning, they just love you to death. I don't donate to anybody. I'm going to be honest with you. I never donated 1 red cent, even to Bernie Sanders, because there were certain things that, you know, certain things that certain subjects where he rubbed me the wrong way. Like he's a staunch defender of Benjamin Netanyahu in Israel, which it doesn't surprise me. I wouldn't give Israel any tax dollars at all, especially the way they're treating the Palestinian people, and all the other shenanigans that, you know, Jared Kushner, you know, with he's he's good friends with Netanyahu. You know, they're Wall Street connivers. You know, so, but there's other things too, like how he capitulates so quickly in 2016, and he capitulated quickly in 2020. Bernie Sanders is a quitter. He's a quitter. Either he just doesn't have any fight in him, or he has no venom to go the distance and say, I'm not gonna quit. I have a huge amount of followers. I'm going to take it right to the end. And if the DNC doesn't nominate me, well, guess what? I'm going to start a third party. He never said that. Now he's campaigning for Biden like he did for Hillary Clinton. But why he's on the ballot in New Jersey, I have no idea. I have no idea why Sanders is on the ballot. It's a mad world. He's campaigning, he's hugging him, he's shaking his hand, he's campaigning for him, and he's on the ballot as an independent in New Jersey.
Right.
It's crazy.
I know Pelosi's been quiet, but where's old Hillary Clinton been? We've not really seen or heard much from her here recently.
We're hearing from her. All of a sudden, she just came out of nowhere and started saying, "Oh, I might join the campaign. Yeah, I might join the primaries. Yeah." And then she changed her mind. then she changed her mind.
Something's going on here. The Democrats are making a big play, and it looks like secession's probably going to be it, but I don't know. I don't trust them as far as I can throw them. Pelosi's been quiet. She's been consolidating power, making moves behind the scenes. I would say probably Hillary Clinton's been doing it too. Obama's probably been doing it too. Clinton and Obama are still connected and tied into this somehow. It's like they never left.
Yeah. You know, I saw some political videos of some female politicians in the southern states. I think one was from Georgia, where she's got an automatic weapon in her hands, and she's saying, "Black Lives Matter, Antifa. If you think you're going to come into our region and you're going to vandalize and loot and set buildings on fire and all this stuff and riot, you have another thing coming. Lock, cut." We're waiting.
Yeah.
We're waiting for you. And now I understand when you say secession, because if the people that really are determined not to let those thugs come in and damage private and public property, and they're doing the video with the automatic, it's a politician holding the automatic weapon, then they're pretty serious about these well, let's call them militias with bad intent. They're not good militias. I don't say peaceful protesters, not anymore. They're not that, you know. So that's what we have. We have turmoil, and we're going to have a very interesting and comical presidential debate coming.
That's if there's even going to be a debate. Because, I mean, to be honest, if Biden got into one debate with Trump, or Harris came in to debate Trump or came in to debate Pence, no way. Well, they would eat them alive.
No, there would be like two leprechauns with their fists up. It will get nasty.
I don't think they'd want to have a debate. Not right now. I don't think they would.
It would get nasty. You would have Trump going ballistic on them, and you would have them doing the same thing. It would get nasty because both sides have dirt and lots of it, and there's not enough. Tide laundry detergent can't do the job. There's so much dirt. So that's why I'm saying it'll be a great thing to watch if you have your favorite food and your malt liquors all ice cold, and you just kick back and you watch them go for each other. Jugular vein.
Yeah. I'd have some Colt 45. I'd have 240s of Colt 45. I'd just be drinking the first one, and then by the time I got done with the second one, I'd be like, this isn't interesting enough. I'm going to need the second one. Crack open the second one, and I'd probably just get done. And I'd just be sitting here quiet, watching, like, what the hell am I watching? I should be disgusted and appalled at what I'm watching, but this is entertaining.
Now, didn't you tell me? Oh, it's very entertaining because I mean, Biden cracks me up, and Trump cracks me up. You know, and watching those remixes is hilarious. But I'm saying that the way Biden gets mad right away, he gets angry. Come on, man, let's go. Let's do some push-ups. Come on, man. You know, and then Trump, you know, the faces he makes, it's going to be pure natural entertainment and comedy. It's going to be nothing better. And I would
kind of not want Biden to go into the debates because It would almost be like Trump bullying Biden because of his old age and his Alzheimer's and his dementia.
Yeah, unless he has one of those brilliant moments. Sometimes he does a political speech on video and he sounds really good and really sharp. And it's other times he's like, you know what I mean? Like he has his good and bad days. Now he has the Doberman Pinscher in back of him now. Kamala Harris. He's got the Rottweiler, and I've seen her interrogate people in Washington, and she's quite good. She's like AOC, but she's an actual. She has experience as an attorney. I mean, a prosecutor. She knows her shit. So I think that's one of the reasons why he felt probably secure in choosing her, because he wanted an attack dog.
I don't think she'd cut the mustard, to be quite frank, because I guarantee you, it's already bad enough that the left is trying to shield Biden from the debates as is anyway. Here's what it would be like. Okay, so they shield Biden, and then Harris would want to go at him, but then yet they'll try to do everything in their power to shield her. But what I find very ironic is, they want to get rid of Trump. Don't get me wrong, and Trump needs to be gotten rid of. But them as the alternative, no.
Well,
It'd be like two dishonest thieves going at each other, and it's just not going to work.
Yeah, it's like two people dressed as the Hamburglar from McDonald's going at it. Yeah, but with the mask and the striped shirt. Now, Kamala Harris, I predict, will destroy Mike Pence, because Mike Pence is a dummy. I mean, Mike Pence is like, and he's an evangelical nut. Mike Pence is easy to blow away in a debate, and especially somebody like Harris. But Biden and Trump, they're both volatile people that get upset quick and get frustrated easily, and they will resort to low blows. I can never understand why Michelle Obama used to say, when they go low, we go high. What the fuck does that mean anyway? When somebody goes low, you go low. You got to fight fire with fire. If somebody's trying to destroy you, what do you mean go high? What are you gonna do? Have sex with them if they're your enemy? What the hell does that fucking mean? Go high.
Maybe they hate fuck. I don't know. I've gave up trying to analyze a lot of stuff.
Yeah, this is the problem with neoliberalism, and they want everybody to love them. Why can't we be friends? Why can't we be friends? Why can't we be friends? Why can't we? Yeah, it's they don't realize that when you're up against the forces of evil, like the oligarch, you can't negotiate with them. You can't rationalize things and be diplomatic. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. It's like, are you going to walk? Are you going to start swimming in a lake with crocodiles and say, "Please don't bite me. Let's be friends. Let's have a chat." And then the crocodile grabs you and pulls you under. That's how it is with the oligarch. They don't give a shit about the state of mainstream America and how many people got evicted.
No, they don't.
How many people are poor and can't buy food, and their jobs never called them back from the layoff. Like Eric, he's still job hunting. He hasn't He hasn't found anything. He had a great interview that he thought was a great interview, and it was with the one of the companies making a vaccine for COVID-19 in Massachusetts. One of the popular ones, something Verna. I don't know. It's one of the drug companies that was entering phase 3 with their vaccine. Anyway, he had an interview with them, but there's multitudes of people that never got called back. He's one of probably hundreds of thousands that lost their job. So I don't know. I predict gloom and doom because, like you said, look at the alternatives we have to Trump. Equals gloom and doom.
Right. But getting to my tarot cards, and we'll probably be wrapping up because we're going on almost 3 hours here. The tarot cards show a lot of interesting stuff for Trump's second presidency. So 2021 is going to be a very active year, more active than what it is now. So he's going to do a lot of great things in the very beginning to show people that, hey, I was a good vote for a second term. But that honeymoon phase will quickly turn into instant remorse and to instant regret in 2022 or 2023. Now, part of his reveal is he's going to reveal things like UFOs, ETs, AI, all that. It's going to go to full disclosure. However, there's going to be a big shift in 2022, 2023. And my guess is he's going to say something really stupid, or he's going to do something very stupid, like when people had that instant regret and remorse for voting for Bush in the second term, or they end up, having that remorse and regret for giving Obama the second term. It's going to be history repeating itself. But this time, it's the third time being the charm. And 2024, 2025, they're not going to impeach him, but when he's out of office in 2025, they're going to be glad to be rid of him. But what I find very funny is 2024 and 2025 is another pivot point, but it will completely be the death of the old and the birth of the new. So my guess is the consciousness awakening that's going on now will be fully complete in either one of those years. So my guess is after Trump is gone, I don't think that the Democrats and Republicans are really going to be viable options for the next upcoming election. I just don't see it. There's going to be something new.
I think Americans are going to finally say enough is enough. We've had it with the two major parties. We don't trust them anymore. They're incompetent. They're screwing us over. They lie to us. The media lies to us. And the Pentagon and NASA finally admitted that UFOs, we have them. We have enough video evidence that they exist. They finally reluctantly came clean and admitted that they actually exist. And every week I'm seeing more clear, vivid, high definition videos of UFOs on the all these shows that I watch. I'm seeing more of them, and the quality of the video is improving. And they're visiting more frequently all over the world in different.
Well, they've been doing it for years. It's just a lot of it's just been kept secret and kept hidden. See, ETs, they have been here for a long time. They never really left.
Probably thousands of years going back.
Yeah, they've been here. They've never left. And in fact, they're all around us. We just don't know it. I guarantee you there are so many races of aliens and extraterrestrials living among us and are camouflaged and hiding in plain view, and we don't even know it.
Maybe even underground. maybe there's a hollow Earth. Who knows?
Well, I know there's been footage of stuff from the dark side of the moon. I mean, they're all around us. They've never left. And I would say probably in just this solar system alone, there's probably colonies on either different planets, moons, or they have fleets of spaceships either out and about in our solar system somewhere, or they have like stargates and things like that. To say that there is no such thing as an ET or an advanced civilization somewhere near us is just absolutely ludicrous.
Yeah. Well, China videoed something very suspicious from the dark side of the moon, and even strange occurrences on the bright side of the moon. They've and then they saw a vertical, like a cigar-shaped craft leaving Mars vertically, taking off on Mars. I mean, but I mean, just the UFOs and coming out of the ocean, and that have been seen by naval personnel aboard a ship, and coming out of mountains that had a tunnel in Antarctica. It was like it was hollow, like there was a tunnel going into the. I don't know if there were volcanic mountains, or if they're if they're man-made pyramids covered with ice. But they've seen UFOs exiting the tip of those structures. I mean,
Yeah.
they're all over.
Well, there's different maps that show how to get to the center of the Earth, and in fact, there's one that's actually near me, and it's just in the state above me in Kentucky. Apparently, Mammoth Cave, Kentucky, if you follow the whole canal of a river that is in the cave, or you follow the caves to a certain point, eventually it will bring you into the center of the Earth.
Really?
That's apparently according to this map. Apparently, there's all sorts of like hidden entrances to go to the center of the Earth. Like, they say that one of the pyramids of Egypt is one. There's one in Antarctica. There's one in Mammoth Cave, Kentucky. There's one on just about every single continent. And what they're talking about is in the center of the Earth, there's this place called Agartha, and it's the land of advanced races. And supposedly, in the very center of Earth, there's a second sun.
Oh, and that's what causes the volcanic eruptions?
I don't know. They say it's a second sun. Well, if it's a second sun, then that's got to be some kind of energy force for the Earth. That'd have to basically be its core.
Yeah, that's where the magma is coming from. The molten lava when a volcano erupts. Earthquakes take place. The tectonic plates that are always shifting.
Yeah.
Remember when they predicted that the poles might totally shift, and it'll be the end of civilization as we know it. The poles will actually shift. Well, they shifted, but they didn't switch, because the Inuit Eskimo Indians said that the stars in the sky that have been in the same position since many generations past have moved. The stars that they use to navigate, that you see in the sky, have changed position, significantly. So maybe climate change is due to that. Maybe it's due to the fluorocarbons and destruction of the rainforest, the fluorocarbons from big oil. Who knows? I mean, I know one thing that the Arctic Circle, The North Pole has seen a 100 degrees Fahrenheit day this year. Talk about weird.
That is weird. Now, when they say that the stars have shifted,
Yeah, you know how ancient people used stars to navigate for navigation? Well, the sailors did it. They had a sextant. It was a device called a sextant on an old sailing ship. Well, the primitive, I don't want to say primitive, the indigenous people use stars too, but they use the same constellations and stars that they're used to seeing in different parts of the sky.
mm-hmm.
So it's like saying, like, well, the Big Dipper and the Little Dipper are not in the same area anymore. Why are they over here and not there? Or or specific constellation that they happen to use, or like I think the so-called North Star is like the end of one of the dippers. Yeah, it actually changed position in the sky. And even the old timers said that it changed position. Well, if it changed position, that means the poles or the continents might have shifted a bit. Well, the North Pole is not a continent; it's a frozen ocean. So we can't call it a continent. But the Arctic Circle goes down over Siberia, northern Canada, Sweden, Norway, and Finland. The northern section,
Right.
is within the Arctic Circle, so they can see the aurora borealis, the northern lights up there.
Yeah, and then there's a southern lights called the aurora borealis.
Oh, you mean towards Antarctica?
Yeah, there's two. The aurora borealis is in the north. The aurora borealis is in the south.
And it's similar in appearance with all the wavy, different colors waving.
Yeah, but I think the color scheme might be a bit different. But yeah, it's very similar.
Well, people in Argentina, Chile, Peru have told me that when the water goes down the drain counterclockwise, because you're south of the equator. If you're north of the equator, our water goes down the drain clockwise, I believe. Because
That'd be kind of cool to watch.
yeah, I'm gonna deliberately fill the sink a little bit and see what direction it goes. But it's supposed to go the opposite, south of the equator. Now, Quito, the capital of Ecuador, is in the Andes Mountains, and the weather there is like autumn all year round. And so is like Bogota, Colombia, in the mountains, and their weather, they never ever get heat waves. It's always like you have to wear a jacket. But the equator goes right through Quito. That's the funny part. The equator, which is the hottest part on Earth because the sun's rays are most direct. They're not on an angle. They come down vertically. Is right on the equator. Okay, but because of the elevation of Quito, so that would mean that one part of the city would have the water go down counterclockwise, and the other part will be clockwise.
I would assume so. Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah, that's kind of and another strange thing is subject is time zones. The United States had hundreds more time zones originally than we have now, and they changed the time zones to benefit the railroad system when they first built the railroad system in the United States. But they consolidated many time zones. Like now we just have we got Eastern, Central, Rocky Mountain, and Pacific. Well, back in the 19th century, like during the Civil War, there were many more time zones. That's weird. That's weird. Also, what's weird is the border separating Georgia from Alabama is actually Eastern and Central time.
Yep.
Yeah. So you see, so it's like you walk across the state line, you're 1 hour, or you're 1 hour behind, then you're 1 hour ahead.
Yeah, but here's what's interesting. Even just that 1 hour, it's very negligible. Like, you don't notice it.
No, you don't. Yeah, that's the weird part. You don't feel it. You don't like. I mean, chronologically, calendar wise, and your time on the phone, is different, but you don't really feel it. Now, jet lag is when you fly from here to Shanghai, and they're 12 hours ahead of us, and Tokyo is 13 hours ahead of us, and Sydney, I think Sydney, Australia is 13 hours too. But I know Tokyo's 13, and Shanghai, Hong Kong is 12, and the Philippines is 12.
Wait, is Tokyo 12 or is Tokyo 9?
No, they're actually 13 hours ahead of us in time. 13.
Actually, let me see. I don't know if it will cancel out, because I know I've got time clocks here on my tablet. Let's see here.
Yeah, but there should be one in your phone too. International.
Actually, I've got my tablet pulled up here, so this will actually show better. All right. So let me type in a location. So right now in London, they are 5 hours ahead. Paris is 6 hours ahead. Berlin is 6 hours ahead. Athens and Istanbul are 7 hours ahead.
Yeah, Rome is 7.
Tehran, Iran is 8. Let's see. Kabul and Afghanistan, Islamabad is also. Well, Islamabad is actually looks like 8.5 hours ahead. All right.
Pakistan, Islamabad, Pakistan. They're 8 hours. Okay. I think you froze. I think you totally froze, man. Let's see if Damien, the dissenter Owens, returns, because he definitely froze. Could be a thunderstorm. That affects Wi-Fi. Overcast skies. Anyway, I want to thank all the viewers for watching our show, Progressive Discussions. The first Progressive Discussion show was in 1995 with myself, James P. Madonna, and the late, great, the Reverend Dr. William J. Eisenman. May he rest in peace. Yep, I did the talk show with the Reverend Dr. Bill for many years, and now I'm doing the show with predominantly with Damien the Wolf Owens. Now he's the dissenter Owens. He must got hit with a thunderstorm or something, because he would have been back by now. I bet he. Oh, here he is. He's back. We got a thunderstorm in Tennessee now.
It must have done something with it, because Yeah, so you're right. Tokyo is 12 hours. Seoul is 13 hours. Australia is 14 hours, but New Zealand's 16 hours ahead.
Oh, interesting. So Tokyo,
Yet,
so Seoul, South Korea is that's weird now. Seoul, South Korea is west of Japan, but it's 13 hours right now, and Tokyo is 12 hours.
yeah, because apparently North and South Korea actually operate on two different time zones. I think the time zone in Pyongyang is 8 hours, but Seoul is like it says +8, but the time zone in Seoul is +8.5. I don't know why. It's like they operate in two different time zones.
Yeah, the whole subject of time zones is bizarre. It really is. When you look at it, it's like a jigsaw puzzle. Like if you actually saw the time zones of the entire world, they're not like longitude, latitude lines. They're
Yeah, and Russia has 11 out of 24.
11. Wow. Yeah. If you include Siberia and European Russia, which is west of the Ural Mountains, I think the Ural Mountains separate European Russia from Asian Russia.
Yep, that is correct. And then the Caucasus or Caucasian Mountains in the south, or yeah, it would basically be southwest. It's the border. They basically act as a natural border between Russia and I think it's Azerbaijan. Yeah, it's Azerbaijan.
Yeah, the former Soviet satellite. Yeah, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, yeah, all those stands. Uh,
And then you got the country of Georgia, and then what's down below Georgia? I think that's
Turkey,
I
right?
think yeah, Turkey.
And Armenia, yeah, Armenia is a landlocked country in the mountains. That's far eastern Turkey, and that's a separate country. Even though the Turks want to take it, they feel it belongs to them.
Yeah, and then you got, of course, Kazakhstan. Then you've got Tajikistan, which is actually is a very hard country to get into. Surprisingly, it's one of the hardest countries in the world to get into is Tajikistan. It's actually much harder to get in than North Korea, if you can imagine that.
Oh,
Then you got
not because of the terrain, the mountains, and because of the
no,
government.
they just don't allow a lot of people in. They're hermits, they're recluses. Then you've got Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan. Then you got Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, Sri Lanka, and then of course China, Mongolia. What else is there?
Yeah, what is
Um,
that country near Nepal? Is that's everything is organic. They produce Bhutan.
yeah, Bhutan. Or
Bhutan.
you also might know it as let's see, Bhutan, and it goes by another name. I cannot think of it for the life of me. But Bhutan is one of the few countries in the world that actually has a negative carbon footprint because of the trees and forests they have, and it's actually one of the few countries in the world where tobacco is completely banned.
Oh wow! I know that Sri Lanka used to be the island of Ceylon at the end of India. I know that, and uh, Nepal. Well, Nepal is where Mount Everest is located. Tibet is the rest of the Himalayas, where the Dalai Lama is. They're trying to gain independence, but China says Tibet belongs to China. And then you have some Himalayas in Pakistan. You have some in northern India, but Nepal has the highest elevation, I think, and Bhutan is pretty mountainous. Uh, but
And there's another state in Bhutan. It's an unofficial state, and it's called the Shan. And it's another state within Bhutan, but it's a state, but it's its own separate country. It's an internal civil war that's been going on for many years. And in fact, Top Gear UK was able to actually go through the Shan And I can see why they're very reclusive and very hermetic, because there's nothing there. There's so much forest, so much natural resources, and the people don't want civilization to come out. They want to live their very reclusive, hermetic, primitive life. But the Shan also has another dark side to it. So you've got the Civil War that's been going on, that's been raging there for, I think, at least 50 years, but a lot of drug trafficking comes from the Shan.
Oh, like opium, heroin,
Mhm.
from the poppies, of course. Oh, it's like Vatican City. It's separate from Italy. It's not part of Italy.
Well, it is still technically part of Bhutan, but it's a state within it, but then yet it operates as its own independent country and has its own government, and it's somewhat autonomous. It's complicated.
Yeah, it sounds very complicated. But anyway, it's been a great show. It's been a very revealing show.
Yep, it has been.
Uh, for the return of the dynamic duo. But we hit hard. I mean, there was
Hmm.
really heavy duty talk, and I want to thank Nina Yordi from Rhode Island for joining us with her commentary, and that was it. I sent other people the link, like Eric Fraunfelder and Alex the Beer Man, and all the heavily imbibed humanoids that didn't want to be a part of the show.
Right,
Right? We did fine without them. We had Nina.
right.
I sent her the link, but she could have been tired today. But anyway, yeah, she's pretty knowledgeable with cars or mechanical aspects. So anyway, thank you everybody. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, talk to you soon.